Here we go with the Montreal Alouettes beginning defense of the Grey Cup title. The Calgary Stampeders beginning the post-Guano era.
Hey, it's as difficult to defend the Cup as it is to win it. Every team the Owls face this year will have extra incentive.
It's a perfect way to begin it tonight at McMahon Stadium in Calgary, 24 degrees. The wind could be a bit of a factor, blowing from right to left across your television screens, but the artificial turf here is dry. Don Matthews won his 5th Grey Cup championship as a head coach last year in Edmonton. And on the sidelines with him, Jim Barker,
who's now on the opposite sideline. There's a new sheriff in Cowtown. The Wally Buono era in Calgary is over. Jim Barker takes over his 2nd crack as a head coach in the Canadian Football League.
And Glenn, it's an interesting way to begin a new season. The last 2 Grey Cup champions head-to-head. The last 2 Grey Cup MVPs face-to-face. And 2 coaches who shared victory last November on opposite sidelines now and barely speaking to each other.
Just a few subplots to get game 1 going in the Canadian Football League. Don Matthews says his football team is better than the one that won the Grey Cup a year ago.
It's faster.
It's bigger.
It's everything better than it was last year. That was a pretty good team that won the Grey Cup championship. We'll see how it all unfolds as we kick off the season 2003 here at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. Alouettes have first possession and a solid hit by Calgary on special teams. On the return, Willie Fells applying the hit on Dante Green. Anthony Calvillo, the most valuable player on Grey Cup Sunday and the all-Canadian quarterback at last.
Over 5,000 yards passing for Anthony Calvillo under the tutelage of Jim Barker. And Calvillo has given Jim Barker a whole bunch of credit for his success last year and his development continuing. Finally got that Grey Cup ring.
Play action from Calvillo. He airs it out far side and overthrows the intended target, Jermaine Copeland. It took Anthony Calvillo 10 seasons to become the best. He made it last year. Calvillo's new featured running back is Montreal-born Eric Lapointe. Ben Cahoon is the Owls' #1 target. And up front, an offensive line doesn't get much better than this with an all-Canadian Brian Chew at center. Starting lineups are brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles heartburn fast.
And that's going to be the difference this year for Anthony Calvillo. All the different targets that he has to work with. It takes time for the quarterback to get in sync with his receivers.
2nd and 10. 2nd and 10 facing Calvillo, and he's wrapped up with flags on the turf near the 40.
Great push early from the middle of that defensive line, which Jim Barker says is the strength of his football team. Joe Fleming is back, baby, and he's right in the middle along with Demetrius Maxey. Elijah Johnson had a great camp in his 15th year. Lawrence Deck gets the start at free safety because of an injury to Aldi Henry in training camp. But good push up the middle in the first series of the game for the Calgary Stampeders. No surprise, number 76 on top of that pop.
Yeah, and Aries Monroe, a rookie out of Alabama, was also applying the pressure there. Number 90. So the Alouettes are forced into a kicking situation back near the 6-yard line. And there's Matt Kellett, who joined the team about 48 hours ago. The Alouettes were struggling to find a kicker to replace Terry Baker, and finally picked up Matt Kellett, who was released from the BC Lions. Not deep, but Kellett gets it up across midfield. Taken by McGarity, and Wayne McGarity is wrapped up after a 2-yard return. Marcus Crandall will get his hands on the ball when we return to Calgary. Calgary starting quarterback Marcus Crandall won the job with relative ease. Last year, he went from Grey Cup most valuable player to missing the playoffs. 26 touchdown passes.
Well, that man, Jim Barker, John, has quickly established himself as one of the great offensive minds in the league and great quarterback coaches. So Marcus Crandall will now have the luxury and has throughout training camp to work with Jim Barker. Should help him.
Stampeders begin first down. Out near the 45. Crandall rolling out, has a target, and he'll be short of the first down. New in the backfield, Lawrence Phillips. All Alberta is waiting to see how he pans out. The only true veteran is receiver Don Blair. Wayne McGarity showed some spark last year. And up front, Lester Pope is brand new. All-Canadian Jay McNeil misses the season opener for the Calgary Stampeders. The gain is 7 yards. And there's Lawrence Phillips.
The talk of the town, and is the talk of most towns that Lawrence Phillips arrives in.
Andre Lane making the reception, and here's Phillips with his hands on the ball for the first time. Stopped in his tracks and short of the first down. Kevin Johnson was there.
A couple of changes in the Montreal defense from the team that won the Grey Cup. Most notably, the linebacking core. Stephon Reed gone. Kevin Johnson moves to his spot. There's a new guy in the middle. William Loftus is the safety, and Baron Miles, maybe the best ball hawk in Canadian football. Kevin Johnson moves to the strong linebacker position, takes Stephon Reed's spot, and Mark Thompson, a rookie in his first game, moves into that middle linebacker position.
There's the all-Canadian punter from last season, Duncan O'Mahony. This one is short, bouncing around, and Alouettes are surrounded. Flags come down. As you might guess, a 34-yard punt and no return. We talked about Eric Lapointe getting his opportunity to be the #1 running back in Montreal in his 5th season in the CFL.
Well, and of course, everybody would love to see Eric Lapointe have success as the feature back for the Alouettes. Of course, he played behind Mike Pringle. He played behind Lawrence Phillips a year ago. And he has the ability. When you look at his career numbers, he has played games off and on in the second half, in the fourth quarter. He did get the majority of the 950 yards there in his rookie season in '99 in Hamilton. He has all the talent in the world and has just never been given the opportunity to carry the mail on a consistent basis.
And what Don Matthews is saying is he is getting the opportunity now to be the feature back in Montreal. Out across the 30 to the 35, and that was Eric Lapointe for about 5. Aries Monroe, number 90.
Well, and the reason that they think that Eric Lapointe can be one of the feature backs is his ability to run inside hard like he does on the first play of the game for the Montreal offense. And it's also his ability and speed to get to the outside. He is versatile, can do a lot of things for you, also catches the ball pretty well.
Gain is 5 yards. 2nd and 5 Alouettes. Calvillo shotgun. And he'll come up with a first down. Jermaine Copeland making the catch. William Fields supplying the tackle.
Well, the other thing that's very important for Eric Lapointe, number 5 right here, and this is one thing that Don Matthews feels very confident in, is his ability to block in the passing game. Good running backs, yeah, we all know that the real good running backs carry the ball well. Can they pick up the blitz and block effectively?
Alouettes have the first down of the evening. Calvillo has to get out of there. Looked to throw on the run and then decided he'd better eat that one. Down at the line of scrimmage, so no gain for Calvillo on the far side.
Calvillo was trying to roll out and move the pocket a little bit to the outside. What he wanted to do was dump the ball over the middle to Eric Lapointe, who was just being mauled by Alondra Johnson, the middle linebacker, a matchup that we'll watch closely throughout this game. Alondra Johnson is a rejuvenated middle linebacker. He had a tremendous camp. Jim Barker said one of the nicest surprises. I'll explain that after this next play.
Alondra playing in his 15th season. And 2nd and 10, Calvillo finds a little room, but he's well short of the first down. A gain of about 4 yards, so the Alouettes will be kicking.
Good coverage downfield by the left side of this secondary for the Calgary Stampeders. They drop back in the zone defense. Every guy covering a spot on the field. Calvillo looks to that side of the field. He wants to throw it to one of those spots. Nothing but red jerseys. He has to take off and run. Let me finish that Alondra Johnson story quickly. He said it was the best surprise, Jim Barker, about Alondra Johnson. It's not surprising when a 15-year vet plays well. He didn't know he was this good. And that's exactly what Jim Barker said.
Well, 15 years is a long run to be in the middle of things, though, without question. Kellett gets a good one away, and McGarity has it go over his head and roll right out the back of the end zone. So Matt Kellett nails an 84-yard single point. The Alouettes score first on Wendy's CFL Live. Lawrence Phillips running out of the backfield that used to belong to Kelvin Anderson, who had 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons as a Stampeder running back.
And by his own admission, Jim Barker has said that it is a bit of a gamble to put Lawrence Phillips in, but it's a gamble that he's very comfortable with. He worked with Lawrence Phillips last year, and last year Lawrence Phillips for the Montreal Alouettes played very well. In fact, he averaged 68 yards. But here's why there's controversy. Kelvin Anderson averaged just 8 yards less per game, as did Lawrence Phillips, and the carries were about equal. When you look at the numbers, people say, why did he make the change?
Early movement from the Alouettes. Don Blair made the catch, but he stopped in his tracks and a flag is down.
So when you compare the numbers between Lawrence Phillips and Kelvin Anderson, and you consider that Kelvin Anderson has been so durable and put in 7 1,000-yard seasons, of course the fans here in Calgary would question Jim Barker. But he said, listen, my responsibility as the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders is to put the best football player in each position. And in Jim Barker's opinion, Lawrence Phillips was the best football player he had in training camp in that position.
Montreal, number 78. First down repeated.
So the Alouettes a little early. Adriano Belli was offside there. So it'll be 1st and 5 for the Stampeders.
And there are people in the league that argue the fact that he is the best player in that position between him and Kelvin Anderson. And that debate will go on. I can't wait to see these two teams play each other.
There's Lawrence Phillips dancing his way for no gain, really. Back to the line of scrimmage is all for Lawrence Phillips.
Well, you know, with Lawrence Phillips, too, in the preseason, he really didn't take a whole lot of reps. Jim Barker was a little bit concerned with his history of knee problems that he might get him injured. Don Matthews, of course, knows a lot from the history of Phillips from last year. Now, the Calgary Stampeders have said he's been a model citizen, but that's exactly what Don Matthews said this time last year about Lawrence Phillips.
Phillips actually losing a yard in the previous play. Completes, and we'll see where they spot the ball. Andre Arlane making the catch. And it looks like it will be a first down for the Calgary Stampeders as Arlane goes up and comes down with it in front of Wayne Shaw.
Well, one of the encouraging things for the Calgary Stampeders fans here early in this game is that it looks like Marcus Crandall is comfortable with the offense. And there's a lot of people in this city, if you listen to and read the newspapers, listen to the radio shows in the city the last couple of days, that are sort of waiting to see what kind of team they have under Jim Barker. And right now their starting quarterback looks pretty comfortable.
First down Calgary. Crandall shotgun. He'll get another first down there. Complete to Albert Connell. Lots of new receivers in this Calgary scheme of things. Darnell McDonald on the other side as well. Albert Connell, a new receiver, has outstanding speed. Andre Arlane coming over from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Well, they're real excited about Darnell McDonald as well as a wide receiver. He's got great size, 200 pounds. He's 6'3", and they feel like he can really stretch the defense from the outside and get off the jam if defensive backs want to play a little bump and run coverage and be aggressive. So lots of weapons for Crandall. He's got to get used to him, though.
Darnell McDonald stepping into Travis Moore's spot. Lawrence Phillips for a couple. Call it a 4-yard gain for Lawrence Phillips there. Adriano Belli making the stop one more time.
You know, so Crandall, who will call his own plays, and this is something that he has to settle in on. As you see his look to this left wrist strap. Jim Barker believes a lot, very similar philosophies as Don Matthews, in that he thinks the players are in control of the game once kickoff has happened. He wants to put the game offensively in the hands of Marcus Crandall. Let him call his own plays and become comfortable.
No secrets at all for the opposing coaches. They know each other well. 2nd and 6. Tipped at the last second. Darnell, Reggie Durden getting a hand on it. And Crandall wanted a penalty marker there. You see Reggie Durden.
Well, Crandall had all the time in the world from big offensive line to make this read, but pretty good coverage downfield. Look at the steamboats Crandall has, a nice passing lane. Gets that ball out of there, and then he starts complaining about this. A little contact right there on the outside. Reggie Durden fighting with Albert Connell, and got his hand kind of over the back, but the officials this year have been instructed that anytime the defensive back can win the race to the football, it won't be interference.
O'Mahony punting into the wind again. Barely got it away, but he'll sail it into the end zone about 3 yards deep. Alouettes return it. This is Green. Donta Green scampering up the sidelines. A 16-yard return. Look at the heat right here on Duncan O'Mahony. Barely got it away. Don Matthews will have a talk with a rookie who should have given up a single point.
Yeah, you know, rookies are going to cost you some mistakes during the game. Donta Green, who's in to replace Keith Stokes. Remember Stokes and how great a returner he was in the first half of the season. Really should have given up the single point there. He's put the Alouettes offensively in a hole back in their own 2-yard line.
And making matters worse, he gets a decent return out of it, but a penalty gets the ball back to the 2-yard line.
And he did step out of bounds at I believe about the 15-yard line. So either way, they lose yardage, and field position so important early in this game.
It would have been just a little better at the 15 is all I'm thinking about here.
Calvillo would have had
for him in the films tomorrow.
Calvillo would have had some breathing room at least.
Anthony Calvillo beginning near the 2-yard line. He has time to throw, and he has a target. Chris Coleman, another of the Alouette newcomers.
Well, he was
had it
hammered, but Kelly Malvo, who's on the backside of the play, he sees Coleman come all the way across the field and then just lays him out with a nice hit. And I think that Malvo heard him, or Malvo was coming, and Coleman heard him coming. Put that ball on the ground before he got there. Chris Coleman is the guy who is in there to replace Thomas Haskins in the offense.
And mostly these Alouettes will run a 5-receiver set. 2nd and 10. Calvillo may not get it away. There's Fleming after he gets him.
There's number 1.
Joe Fleming, a sack master, and he's got his first in his return to the Calgary Stampeders.
The triangle of a doom for the Calgary Stampeders. Fleming, Maxey, Alondra Johnson. And it's a nice little move to the outside right here, and watch the quickness. He took a year off to rest from the middle of the field, loops around on a nice little stunt, comes outside, and he's free, and it's a foot race. And he gets there to put Calvillo on the turf in the end zone.
A sack and 2 points.
Well, this is going to be
Joe Fleming.
This is going to be Jim Daly has got what he wants in the middle of this defense. If you're good down Main Street, you've got a nice city. And the Calgary Stampeders have a nice defense because they're good down Main Street. Joe Fleming, Demetrius Maxey, and Alondra Johnson. That is the middle of their defense. That's the heart and soul and the core. And that kind of push from Joe Fleming all season long, along with Demetrius Maxey, is going to make life a whole lot easier for that man, Alondra Johnson.
Sack leaders all season long, brought to you by Purolator. Purolator tackles hunger. And Joe Fleming has his 50th career sack.
John, a lot of people last year said that possibly Alondra Johnson maybe didn't have his best season. He had 76 tackles and played pretty well. Alondra Johnson hasn't lost a step. In fact, he has played pretty good football over the last couple of years of his career. But when you don't have that great pass rush up front, if the 4 guys in front of you aren't getting it done, it's tough on a middle linebacker.
Crandall fired low, and there were penalty markers down on both sides of the field. Darnell McDonald was the intended receiver.
Remember last year that Joe Fleming was not in the lineup.
Offside. Calgary, number 86. Penalty is declined. 2nd down.
And in fact, at the beginning of the season for the Calgary Stampeders, their entire D-line was brand new. That's why Alondra Johnson and this defense struggled early. Now they've got some veterans back in there, Fleming one of them, and that'll make life a whole lot easier for Johnson.
And right beside him, Demetrius Maxey. Second down. Nice opening. Albert Connell, another of the newcomers.
There's a flag down, John, but it's right at the end of the play. The catch will count. Albert Connell found the seam in this zone defense to the right side of Marcus Crandall, and the quick read and pop right over the line of scrimmage to Albert Connell, and then he uses great speed down the field.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Montreal, number 58, first down.
And look where the Stampeders are set up at the 5-yard line. A 64-yard gain by Albert Connell.
Well, this is a guy who's got a tremendous amount of experience in the National Football League. He was a 4th-round draft pick of the Redskins. In the year 2000, had over 700 yards receiving for Washington. He can get it done.
The book on Connell has speed, makes big plays. You saw it there. 64 yards to set the Stampeders up at the Montreal 5. Heat on Crandall, looks to the end zone. Open target, not quite. Crandall forced to hurry that.
Well, he just threw that away. He just tried to hit our cameraman down on the sideline because he had a lot of pressure coming after him on Mark Magna. But what a big play by Calgary. And what it does is it stretches his defense, because the seams is where they want to hit, right down that hash mark. Put 3 receivers to the right side of the field. Albert Connell was the middle receiver in the group. He found the opening, and there's that great speed that you talked about when you talked about the book on Albert Connell.
Second down. Goal to go. Stampeders are set up at the 5. Crandall has time. End zone toss. Looking for Darnell McDonald, and he missed him that time.
You know, when you go back to that first down, once they got down here, when Marcus Crandall had to throw that ball away, Jim Barker told us yesterday that they have what they call the no sack zone. Inside the opponent's 40-yard line, they do not want to give up a sack. And so when you saw Marcus Crandall get into a little bit of trouble, he threw that ball up in the stands, because a field goal is not a bad thing for Calgary in this scenario. Some points off the big play from Albert Connell.
Mark McLaughlin hit on 67% of his field goal tries last year. And he's perfect so far in 2003. Stampeders have scored 5 points. Jim Barker traded away the Stampeders' top receiver Travis Moore, and the #1 rusher Kelvin Anderson was released. He's putting his stamp on this football team. And he welcomes Joe Fleming back, and that's going to be just a terrific addition for the Calgary Stampeders. Well, he was around for the Grey Cup year.
It sure was, and a big part of the win versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers was Joe Fleming. And there's some of the changes. Darnell McDonald, we saw him back of the end zone, just overthrown in the last play. Lawrence Phillips, of course, we talked about. George White, a huge signing for the Calgary Stampeders. I think when you talk to Jim Barker, he'll tell you the one thing that he would like to do differently from his experience when he was the head coach of the Argos was that take less input from people, go with this gut feeling a little more, and make some of the tough decisions that he believes in, and he's done that here in Calgary.
Duncan O'Mahony drives it down inside the 20-yard line. Good return brewing for Green. He's a speedster. Donta Green with a 26-yard return.
Well, Calvillo really hasn't had much success early in this game offensively, but he is going through what he hasn't gone through in the last 4 or 5 years, and that's pretty much an entirely new receiving core, a new running back behind him. The only real consistency up there is Ben Cahoon on one side and that offensive line.
Nice return, setting the Alouettes up at the 50. First down from there, best field position for Montreal. The pressure was on, and Cahoon was the target.
Over 1,000 yards for Ben Cahoon in 2002. That was good for first spot in the Montreal Alouettes, top Canadian in the CFL.
And 4th amongst all Canadian receivers.
You know, and it's nice to have a Ben Cahoon beside Anthony Calvillo, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the down that he looks to him when it's 2nd and 10 and you need to move the sticks. You go to your go-to guy, Ben Caron.
Cavillo has time, and he looked in a different direction. Chris Coleman was the intended receiver, and the coverage simply too tight down there. Otis Floyd got in the way.
Well, Cahoon was the decoy on the play. That's why Anthony Calvillo went deep down the seam. But here comes some pressure, and he has to throw this a little bit earlier than he'd like to because of that pressure on the outside from Antoine Young. Couldn't put enough arc on that ball and get it up over Otis Floyd and into Chris Coleman's hands.
Third down. Punting situation for the Alouettes. McGarity is back, number 86. Standing just inside the Stampeder 5. And Matt Kellett just across the Montreal 40 to get this one away. McGarity stopped in his tracks at the 20. 3 on the return, 43 on the punt. 1st and 10 Calgary when we return. Into the final 3 minutes of the opening quarter, the Stampeders lead it 5-1. Calgary first down near the 20. And running room has been difficult for Calgary to find. Again, Lawrence Phillips stopped in his tracks. Ed Fillion was there to make the tackle. This guy gets rave reviews everywhere he goes.
Sure
Number
does.
75 for the Alouettes.
Sure does, and part of a pretty good defensive front seven that has one newcomer in the middle. I mentioned it earlier in the show, but Mark Thompson takes over in that middle linebacker spot for Kevin Johnson. They like his mobility combined with his size at 6'3" and 245 pounds. Earned a spot through the preseason and now will anchor the middle of that defense.
2nd and long. Crandall had to get it away in a hurry. Incomplete, and a penalty marker is down. It was Fillion supplying the pressure there, and Andre Arlane was the intended receiver.
Yeah, Fillion and Rob Brown up the middle got good push right from the middle of that defensive front. A little bit of a twist there. Brown comes free, 94, and there's 75. Fillion right behind him. It's a tough defensive front seven for a couple of reasons. One, man for man, they're physical. They're very physical up front. But the other one is the scheme they play in.
Legal contact on a receiver. Montreal, number 31. 2nd down repeated.
Well, and this will be a break for the Stampeders. It'll be 2nd and 1 as a result of the infraction.
Don Matthews loves to attack defensively. He has his entire career as a head coach. This Montreal Alouettes defensive front seven will get after you, and they're coming again right now.
All blitz all the time. And here's the opening for Lawrence Phillips. His first big run as a Calgary Stampeder out near midfield. Reggie Durden.
This is game planning from Jim Barker, and you got to give him one check mark in the plus column. He knows this from game film from Don Matthews, that in these situations, you're going to see linebackers slide and fill these holes, this gap. This is why they call a play the opposite side to Lawrence Phillips. Quick hitter as the linebackers slide to the right. He's got one man to beat and does, and he's got some open field in front of him.
The gain is 23 yards for Lawrence Phillips, and the Stampeders are set up first down at the 52. Faked it to Phillips this time, and then looked deep. Too far for the intended receiver, Don Blair. Talked about the Alouettes all blitz all the time. The other night in that final preseason game, Don Matthews blitzed 55 times in 63 plays by actual count.
Yeah, and when he was asked about it in the press conference, said, did you really blitz that much against Ottawa in Quebec City, 55 times, 63 plays? And he said, yeah, and I told him I was going to. And that is typical Don Matthews.
That's his style.
That's his style, and they do come all the time.
He likes quick defenders in the mold of Mark Megna. This play whistled down. It was 2nd and 10 Stampeders. And he's got other newcomers in that mold as well. I don't know if we're going to get to see him, but it's number 15, Adrian Archie.
Calgary, number 68. 2nd down repeated.
And they talk about Adrian Archie, who is a backup on the depth chart tonight, as being quicker than Quick Parker.
Mark Megna had a great 2002 season, and yeah, Don Matthews talked about Adrian Archie and said that he will play a little bit early in the year, but Mark Megna earned the starting spot and remains the starter at that defensive end position.
Megna with 7 sacks last year. Second down and a bunch to go. Little screen toss to Lawrence Phillips, sliding out of the backfield, back to the line of scrimmage, but that's about all. And Megna is there to make the tackle.
Well, more pressure from Don Matthews' defense, and this time it's Tim Strickland that comes from the top of your screen right up here. Now, Tim Strickland, number 38, he was the man who last year in the Grey Cup game versus Edmonton, when the Eskimos were going for a 2-point convert, made the big play to solidify the win for the Montreal Alouettes in their Grey Cup ring. And now Tim Strickland gets a chance to call the defenses. When Mark Thompson takes over in the middle for Kevin Johnson, Johnson goes to Stephon Reed's place. Strickland becomes the quarterback back there.
Omani got a little pressure on another punt. A flag goes down. And zeros are on the clock. That will be the end of the opening quarter until we sort out this flag here. So we'll see what the infraction was.
Well, you got to believe this is a good start for Jim Barker and the Calgary Stampeders. Not many people gave them a whole lot of credit coming into this season. They looked at all the changes, the end of the Wally Buono era, and
Offside. Montreal. Third down repeated.
the tremendous success that Wally Buono had here from 1990 until last year. And there was a lot of question marks from fans here in Calgary. And I think this is a pretty good first quarter for Jim Barker when it's all said and done, to be up 5-1 on the defending Grey Cup champions and have the starting offense look pretty comfortable.
And this another break for the Stampeders after a 39-yard Omani punt. He'll get another crack at it with 5 yards added on because of the penalty. And barring flags here, this will be the final play of the opening quarter. Donna Green stopped just inside the 20-yard line on the final play of the opening quarter. Entertaining? I'd say so. Let's send you back to the panel.
Thanks, Welty. Yeah, Glenn just said, nice start for the Calgary Stampeders at home against the defending champs. Sure, it's only 5-1, but Jim Barker, the coaching staff, will look at little things that are going right, and that's exactly where you're going to start, Shelton.
Yeah, I'll show you 2 little things that went right for this football team early. Last year, the Calgary Stampeders, 4,959 yards were thrown against them. That's number 9 in a 9-team league. They were the worst in the league. Here's Anthony Calvillo, one of the most polished, refined quarterbacks in the CFL. Goes through his reads, can't find anybody. Great coverage. Let's take a look at a very similar play. Out of the shotgun, pre-snap reads, looks ref, nobody there, looks middle, nobody there. I better get out of there. I'm impressed by the coverage of this football team, and I've also seen the safety, Lawrence Deck, make a big hit, and Kelly Malvo. Improvement in the secondary first observation for the Calgary Stampeders.
Schultze, we talked about top of the show, when Calgary was at their best, they simply had a great push with their front four, and that'll make any secondary look that much better. And you watch to create a different line of scrimmage here. That defensive line is just getting up on Anthony Calvillo, living in his lap right now. You watch it again here in the end zone, and they're just creating a new line of scrimmage, forcing Anthony Calvillo to get happy feet. Any secondary is going to be improved there. It's exactly what Wally Buono was hoping for last year. He left, and now the rush is back once again for the Calgary Stampeders early on in this game, John.
And offensively for the Stampeders, the story's been Marcus Crandall and, of course, Albert Connell with the biggest play of the first quarter. He's the guy that's got to step in and fill for Travis Moore. McGarity, he's going to clear right out here, and now Connell is going to nip in here for a little quick slant, a play that's designed to get you about 8 to 10 yards. But not this speedster. He splits the D and takes this thing 64 yards. And folks at home, you'll note this guy's wearing number 83. Travis? Travis who? This guy is obviously the big deep threat that Calgary's been looking for.
He looked good on that play, and how good to Calgary fans does Joe Fleming look wearing number 76
Real
once
good.
again at McMahon Stadium? They are probably saying, hello, Joe, welcome back. Let's take it back to McMahon for second quarter action. John and Glenn.
Numbers on the scoreboard favoring the Stampeders, and also on the stats board, just 6 net yards for the Alouettes, and that time of possession is interesting too.
Yeah, 529 offensively for the Alouettes, 6 yards net. This is a team that last year was second in the league rushing the football, second in the league passing the football. Calgary's defending him right now.
Anthony Calvillo and the Alouettes. Here's a break for Montreal, and a flag is down up near the 40-yard line. Jay Graham coming out of the backfield for Montreal, and he ran into Willie Fells.
There is a flag down. Now, Jay Graham, the rookie out of Tennessee, will get a chance to sort of see about 30% of the plays offensively. Eric Lapointe is the feature back. Graham will come in for about 30% of the offensive plays.
Procedure, illegal formation, Montreal, first down repeated.
7th penalty against the Alouettes. It's cost them 32 yards so far.
You know, in the first game out of the preseason, especially when there's only 2 preseason games now in the CFL, you're going to have some mistakes early.
Alouettes looking at 1st and 15. Calvillo stands in there coolly and gets a completion out near the 31. Jermaine Copeland on the receiving end there. Copeland out of the National Football League and out of Tennessee. Nice big target at 6'2".
Well, yeah, you know, when you think about that, John, and Anthony Calvillo trying to get used to Jermaine Copeland and some of the other receivers here. Marcus Crandall doing the same thing on the other side. In training camp, 2 preseason games is almost impossible to get timing down.
16 yards the game. And here's Jay Graham again.
You know, and the reason being, when you have the 2 preseason games, you have to, in the first one, play a whole bunch of your rookies. I mean, you come into camp with 65, 75 guys, and the coaches are really forced to get their rookies in the game. Some of these teams had to play a preseason game within 5 or 6 days of training camp. So they evaluate some of the rookies. In the next game, they play veterans, maybe 2 quarters. Not a lot of time to get your timing down offensively.
Graham picked up 9. Flags are down.
Yeah, you see Jermaine Copeland. And when I talk about timing, and on cue, Jermaine Copeland jumps offside by 4 yards. He just didn't have the timing down with Anthony Calvillo on the snap count. That's the 5th offside for the Montreal Alouettes. And the offside penalty is really an indication of timing and just getting used to that snap count from your quarterback. But 2 quarters in the preseason is awful difficult to get it done.
Offside, Montreal, number 80. Penalty is declined. 3rd down.
Well, he wasn't just offside, he was on the opposite side. That was 4 or 5 yards down the field. And again, it's just timing, because receivers are trying to get some motion going towards the line of scrimmage. It's called a waggle. And what they try and do is line up about 7 or 8 yards back, take a good run at the line of scrimmage, and just when Calvillo calls for that football, they're going full speed down the field. Copeland was about 4 yards offside.
Penalties a big part of the problem for the Alouettes. Here's McGarity back for Calgary near his 25, and Kellett for Montreal standing near his 25. Kellett kicking into the wind for the first time. He had an 84-yard single in the opening quarter. Let's see what McGarity can do with a little open field. Wade McGarity across midfield, still standing as he crosses the 35 and is caught at the 31. The punt travels 50, the return 59. Wayne McGarity. Stampeders happy to have Joe Fleming back, and we're happy that Ken Chillibeck is down from Edmonton on the sidelines tonight.
Thank you very much, John. Yeah, it didn't take long for Joe Fleming to make an impact in this game with that big sack on Anthony Calvillo in the first quarter for 2 points. I talked to him when he came off the field, and he said, yeah, it's great to be back. And I said, does it feel like you never left? Of course, he was out of the game for last year, and he says, you know what? Yeah, it feels like I left.
Take him a while to get those football legs back and in game shape. It's one thing to train hard, and he has, and go through training camp, but you can't duplicate game time. You just have to play the games and get in game shape.
Stampeders are set up in great shape here at the 31 after a 59-yard return. Lawrence Phillips makes the catch, and it'll be another Calgary first down out at the 11. A 20-yard gain for Lawrence Phillips. Kevin Johnson forced him out.
This is the upside that everybody that has coached Lawrence Phillips loves to see because of his versatility. Starts in the backfield, then he leaks out. There he is right here. Watch him go to the left. That's the waggle towards the line of scrimmage. Now, Marcus Crandall knows he has the one-on-one matchup. That's Lawrence Phillips, one-on-one. on Kevin Johnson, the linebacker. A matchup that the Calgary Stampeders will love to have and will go back to.
Lawrence Phillips closing in on 50 yards in the first half so far. Flags are down, and Crandall looking for Don Blair. Couldn't make a connection.
Get Enfillion up the middle was forcing Crandall out of that pocket, but that play to Lawrence Phillips a play ago is exactly the upside. You see how Kevin Johnson, 44 to the left of your screen, before the snap of the ball, he had to move over there and get in position to try and stay with Lawrence Phillips. That automatically gives the quarterback a chance for a pre-snap read.
It'll be 2nd and 10. Procedure declined.
Legal procedure declined by Montreal. They'll put him in 2nd and 10, and it looks like they can. Well, the first down marker is right at the 1-yard line.
Stampeders 2nd down. 10 to go, and that one is batted down. Tim Strickland coming up from his linebacking spot to get a big mitt on that one.
Well, there's risk and reward with a lot of things that you do on the field. As he comes off the edge, he takes a bit of a risk by leaving his feet. Tim Strickland goes up, knocks that ball away. It paid off for him this time. Had Marcus Crandall pumped that ball and had Timothy Strickland up in the air like that, probably could have got outside the pocket. But it worked for him to get the big knockdown and the stop.
So enter Mark McLaughlin. An 18-yard field goal. Had another short chip shot in the opening quarter. So the Stampeders have settled for field goal attempts with excellent field position at stages of this game, but they have controlled the Montreal Alouettes and had 3 more to the total. Calgary on top by a touchdown. It's 8-1. Thursday nights on Wendy's CFL Live, we follow the Rough Riders into Toronto against the Argonauts. It's a kickoff at 7 o'clock Eastern. Damon Allen's debut as a Toronto Argonaut. Hope you can join us for that.
Well, that's the Toronto Argonauts that Jock Climbing has said is going to win the Grey Cup.
Jock really said that.
Yeah, bold prediction right out of the gate.
On day 1 of the season. Nice play action fake, but Calvillo doesn't fool everyone.
Antoine Young this time gets in on the fun. He goes one-on-one with Neil Fort, and that's not easy right there. That's Neil Fort at about 350 pounds. See him work to the outside, and he uses that right arm to rip underneath Neil Fort, get good leverage underneath him, get his body low, blew by him, gets in the backfield.
3rd sack for the Stampeders in the opening half.
And they're getting that pressure, John, with just the 4 up front. Sometimes just 3.
Second in a bunch. Calvillo stands in. No catch.
Anthony Pryor with
he
a nice,
was right there, wasn't he? Number 37, Anthony Pryor.
Nice knockdown from the outside. Interesting what the Calgary Stampeders are doing, and Matt Dunnigan talked about it before the show, how they will go back to getting pressure with just 3 or 4 rushing up front. And when you have Maxey, Fleming, Antoine Young up there, you can do that and afford to do that. And that makes it difficult for the quarterback because all the rest of the team defensively is dropping into pass coverage, so there's not many open targets.
Wayne McGarity drops back for Matt Kellett's punt. McGarity with a 59-yard return to set up the 2nd Stampeder field goal tonight. High snap. Kellett brings it down, and McGarity will not get a chance to find much running room, or does he? With a good bounce, he comes to the near side.
Watch out.
And the wall opens for McGarity. 59 yards the last time he had his hands on the ball. Looking to the end zone this time. He's got it. A 70-yard return for Wayne McGarity.
His patience recovering the football opened things up for him to the outside.
A quick 6.
Back-to-back big returns for McGarity.
59 yards, and then this for 70 all the way to the end zone.
He was so fast, we just wanted to stop it right there, just so we could see.
Somebody slow him down.
Yeah.
We did it for you technically.
Wow, what a return. Back-to-back returns. One resulted in a field goal, and this time he just finished it off himself.
70 yards for Mr. McGarity. Wayne McGarity, 5'8", 190 pounds, out of Texas in his second season in the CFL.
Well,
there's a beauty here.
He uses great patience. See how he lets the ball bounce around? That really draws the tacklers in from the Montreal Alouettes into a big pile. Once they get in there now, he can get outside to the wall. And once he's out there, it's just home run to the end zone. Wayne McGarity showed the patience of a veteran. It's a punt returner waiting for that football, picking it up at just the right time.
Jim Barker called him something special when we chatted yesterday, and he's shown that already. Alouettes try and get back in this. This is Green, down to Green, out across the 30 to the 35.
See, John, coaches will tell the cover team, the punt cover team, to go ahead and take the no yards penalty if a receiver is waiting for the football like that. Because this is what can happen. If you get too bunched up as tacklers, you can lose your angle, and McGarity takes advantage of it.
It looked like he would run out of room to the other sideline, but just at the last second, it bounced a little to his left, and he found room on the wide side of the field. So it was a 70-yard touchdown, but about a 110-yard run from where he began, wasn't it? Alouettes try and get back in this one. That's Calgary, and he's caught from behind. Aries Monroe making his presence felt. A couple of key plays for him tonight.
Calgary defensively with their great four-man pressure showing that they're going to be solid in the middle. We talked about it at the opening, and what's that has done so far to this Calgary team has given them confidence in special teams and offense, starting now to take advantage of this field position.
Dave Stalla, number 88, flanks to the near side. Two receivers in motion over the middle, and Calvillo won't get a chance to get it away. The Stampeders sack attack working well tonight. Demetrius Maxey, for one, is celebrating down there. And that's 4 sacks for Calgary.
And I think Alondra Johnson was in on it. He at least gets the assist for Demetrius Maxey. Alondra Johnson is going to delay and spy technique. There he is right there. Watch how he just slow rushes. Just spies Calvillo. If he breaks contain, I got him. Flushes him up right into the hands of Demetrius Maxey. There's that triangle of doom.
You've got it. Maxey with Fleming at his side, backed up by Alondra Johnson, number 51. Matt Kellen keeps it low into the wind. This is McDonald waiting for a bounce here. And it takes a Stampeder bounce. McDonald will draw a flag after a 9-yard return. Montreal's Robert Brown had 7 sacks last season. This year, we're going to keep track of the sack leaders on behalf of Purolator. And for every sack, Purolator will donate a sack of food to the city's food bank. So Purolator tackles hunger this year, and already the Calgary Stampeders have provided 4 sacks of food for the food bank here.
Well, Joe Fleming and the boys up front for Calgary have been feasting on quarterbacks, and at the same time providing some food for the people who need it most.
Yeah, interesting to note when you look back to last year in the Calgary defense, only 24 sacks all season long. That was 8th in the CFL, so this is a pretty good start. 4 sacks in the opening half.
And have not had to send a lot of pressure. They haven't had to go with secondary blitzes. They haven't had to send a whole lot of linebackers to get that pressure. Good sign for that Calgary defense. And it's given a whole bunch of confidence to this offense.
No question about that. A no-yards penalty declined by the Stampeders, who will take the first down at the 51 of Montreal. And that took a little too long. Marcus Crandall charged with procedure there.
Jim Barker just, Marcus Crandall in that sequence looked at Jim Barker.
Calgary, number 64. First down repeated.
Jeff Pilon, and what happened was Marcus Crandall looked over to Jim Barker and he kind of gave him the hands up in the air signal, and Barker looked at him and said, hey, I didn't go offside. Call another play.
It'll be 1st and 15 Stampeders. Calgary on top by a couple of touchdowns at 15-1. 8:09 until the opening half. It's done. On the money, down to the 45. Crandall complete to Don Blair.
Lawrence Phillips made a nice read to make this play happen. Lawrence Phillips is right here, but he had walked from the left side of the screen, and the reason he walked all the way in there is because he saw Kevin Johnson lined up in a blitz formation. He walked in to make sure he took his man, made the perfect read, and gave his quarterback time to throw the ball.
Blair picked up 10 yards, but the Stampeders needed 15, so this is 2nd and 5. Crandall with time, and he'll get the first down just inside the 40. Darnell McDonald.
You know what the Calgary Stampeders can be very happy with is the play of those guys up front, and that's that big offensive line for the Stampeders, one of the biggest O-lines in the entire Canadian Football League, and with all the pressure that Montreal will send and have sent in this game so far, they're holding their own pretty well.
Darnell McDonald worked with Jim Barker in the XFL in LA, so they're reunited here in Calgary. On the ground, Lawrence Phillips off right tackle, and Phillips another nice run. William Loftus making the tackle. The gain is 10 yards.
There you see the three dimensions of Lawrence Phillips in one half of football. We saw him catch a deep pattern in the corner. We saw him pick up a couple of nice blocks on blitzes from the Montreal Alouettes, and then he runs the ball pretty effectively. Big upside athletically. He is a tremendous football player. He just needs to get it together in all the other aspects, and Jim Barker truly believes that in this scenario here in Calgary, he'll be able to do that.
So far, things are going very well for Lawrence of Alberta.
Lawrence of Alberta, okay.
And extremely well, too, for the Calgary Stampeders, who have been impressive on both sides of the football here in the opening half at McMahon Stadium under their new head coach, Jim Barker. Another Calgary first down inside the 30. Phillips gets the call, slight delay to him, spins away from one. Great athletic ability shown there, but there were too many Alouettes.
Well, it's a pretty good run just to get back to the line of scrimmage, because it looked like he broke 3 or 4 tackles just to save the loss. Little draw play to Lawrence Phillips. Tried to fool the Montreal defense. One miss there. Another broke tackle there. There's the 3rd one from Baron Miles. There's the 4th one. Gets right back to the line of scrimmage and saves a loss. Calgary gets 2nd and 10.
Yeah, even the double sow cow didn't fool the Alouettes there. 0 is the gain, although the run was decently impressive and worth replaying. This will be 2nd and 10. Shotgun. Intercepted, first pick of the year. And lots of running room for the Alouettes down the near side.
Wayne Shaw got away with the subtle push on the inside. And that ball just floated over the intended target and right into Wayne Shaw's hands. First interception of the season for the Montreal Alouettes, and first one for Shaw, who had 6 a year ago. Lots of time for Marcus Crandall. He drops down. He throws it to the man he wants to get it to, who had inside position. But as you're going to see, a little subtle push to the left of your screen, Shaw gets that position back. A little physical play right there, and the ball is overthrown. That's Andre Arlane, who gets pushed in the back.
Wayne Shaw was an Eastern All-Star in 2002. Great return, sets the Alouettes up in good field position. Another marker is down. However, this is Eric Lapointe, breaks 1 tackle. He's down to the Stampeder 30. 47 yards for Shaw on the return. 34 tackles last year, as you said. The 6 interceptions.
2 of them returned for touchdowns, so Wayne Shaw becomes an offensive threat when he intercepts the football. Also had a fumble recovery, and he got a ton of yardage back on that interception return. And it really should be the spark the Alouettes need to get their offense going, although
penalty here.
That holding penalty will bring them back.
Major foul, face mask, Montreal, number 57. First down repeated.
More than holding the face mask. And so that'll make it first in a whole bunch. 25 necessary for a first down for the Alouettes, who had a pretty nice situation set up right after the interception by Wayne Shaw. Calvillo has time, far side, and this one is picked out, going back the other way. More pressure, and William Fields has his first interception.
Yeah, and William Fields is the extra defensive back. You put the extra defensive back on the field in coverage because you're getting pressure with just 4 men up front. And Antoine Young, from the bottom of your screen here, he's going to be one of the guys that provides pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4 red jerseys on 5 offensive linemen. Some pressure late from Demetrius Maxey in the middle. Calvillo has to throw it when he doesn't want to, and William Fields says, thank you very much. A lot of red landmines for Anthony Calvillo in that pass defense right now.
William Fields with 7 interceptions over the last couple of years. And the Stampeders get it right back at midfield. First down. The intended receiver didn't look around quickly enough, Darnell McDonald. Marcus Crandall looking out to the right flat.
Again, more pressure, though, that is handled quite handily by that offensive line for the Calgary Stampeders. Jim Barker, nice game plan right here because he's got those big boys up front. Fred Childress, Jamie Crysdale in his 11th season. 169th consecutive game for Big 67 at the center position, and they are picking up the blitz very effectively right now in this first half. Don Matthews will have to try and make adjustments at halftime. Right now, Calgary says, listen, they're going to maybe drop some more people. Give Crandall even that much more time.
Stampeders getting along without their All-Canadian Jay McNeil up front tonight. Crandall stands in. He'll come up short of first down with a connection there. Blake Mahan, number 87, out of the University of Calgary, born in Rocky Mountain House, and his father played football for the Edmonton Eskimos back in the 1950s. Tom Mahan.
Blake Mahan is really the 6th receiver that will come into the lineup for Calgary and go with a whole bunch of different formations. Wayne McGarity comes in as the number 5th.
Duncan O'Mani, the All-Canadian punter in 2002, kicking with the breeze at his back. Better kick away this time. And Green play on it, but O'Mani puts it out at the 2.
That's big.
They don't come much prettier than that, and when you nail it for 50 and put it out the 2-yard line, that's a peach.
Well, that's a great punt because with 3 minutes and 32 seconds left in this first half, a quick 2-and-out from the Calgary defense, and this Calgary offensively will have tremendous field position again inside of the 50-yard line likely. And that's tough to control that punt when you're kicking with the wind because the ball has a tendency to sail on you. That one was put perfectly into the corner.
Well, and Matt Kellett sailed one in the opening quarter with the wind at his back, 84 yards for a single. So it was tough for him to judge it as well. For the Alouettes begin at the 2-yard line, and here's an opening. Eric Lapointe.
Number 5, Eric Lapointe, breaks it out of there.
950 yards for Lapointe in 5 years in the CFL. He gets a chance to be #1 in Montreal. Don Matthews has named him the feature back for the Alouettes.
And Don Matthews had an interesting comment about Eric Lapointe in the press conference yesterday, and really something that bodes well for the Canadian ratio. And the reason that it's important, he said that if Eric Lapointe was an American, he'd have been playing a long time ago as a starter. That's the importance of the ratio.
Lapointe picks up 20. 3 minutes to go till halftime. Stampeders having a nice opening night on home turf here at McMahon. Alouettes looking at 1st and 10. Anthony Calvillo has gone 2 and out 6 times in the opening half so far. So the Alouette offense has really not been able to sustain any kind of a drive.
That's because, in large part, to the triangle of doom.
You love the doom guys, don't you? Demetrius Maxey, Joe Fleming, and Alondra Johnson together for the first time. Fleming and Johnson played together 2 years ago as Stampeders. Demetrius Maxey coming over this year. Grey Cup champion 3 times. Maxey, number 91, with Baltimore the first time. And with 2 with Toronto, and then stop in Saskatchewan with the Rough Riders in 2000.
Joe Fleming won that Grey Cup. I think that was one of the reasons that he decided that it was time to retire. But you know, sometimes you get away from the game and you realize how much you miss it.
Well, that's exactly the case for Joe Fleming. I mean, one of the nicest guys you'd want to meet on a football field down there to have a chat with before the game. Another guy we're going to miss this year for pregame chat, Stephon Reed, who's always been an outstanding performer in the Canadian Football League and has retired after winning his Grey Cup. I'm sure watching the telecast back there in BC tonight.
Tremendous career for Stephon Reed.
He really did have a great run.
Big shoes to fill.
Stampeders defense is attacking this Montreal offense.
It's like the dam has got some cracks in it and the water's coming.
Alondra Johnson is in the middle of it down there along with Sheldon Napastuk.
And they just can't stop the flood because the penetration from that defensive line. Look at Fleming 4 yards back in the backfield. He makes the tackle. Good penetration at the front side from Antoine Young.
And absolutely nowhere for Eric Lapointe to go. Could be another 2 and out for the Alouettes, looking at 2nd and 9 here. Calvillo has to put it up. This one floats a bit. Cahoon was the intended receiver. And the coverage from Kelly Malvo, and Anthony Calvillo is on the turf.
And the Calgary defensive linemen are waving to the training staff to get some help for Anthony Calvillo. He went down hard. Let's take a look at Calvillo back here in the shotgun. As he takes this one, he has to wait for this play to develop. And he takes that shot low in the legs from Sheldon Napastuk. Backup defensive lineman in on the rotation. Certainly not intentional. Napastuk just went down and tried to make that tackle. See Calvillo walk slowly to the sideline.
Matt Kellett standing at his 9. Darnell McDonald waiting at his 45. Nice kick into the breeze. McDonald chased back to the 35. Nice return brewing for McDonald too. We've seen several of those tonight. A couple by McGarity. Nice return there by Darnell McDonald. Stopped by Eric Lapointe. Stampeders begin in Alouette territory again. Crandall has a target and a very close to a first down. Actually, they come up a yard shy. McDonald making the catch. Omar Evans making the tackle.
Marcus Crandall looks very comfortable in this first half. He has from start to finish. He's got some momentum from his defense, and he's been playing on the Montreal half of the field. Jim Barker's got a nice game plan together. You got to give him some credit for this. You think a lot across the other sideline. Don Matthews' reputation is attacking defense. The Calgary offensive line has handled that pressure. He also has a great reputation for special teams. and their preparation. And guess what? The Calgary Stampeders have come back with 3 big returns, 1 for a touchdown from McGarity.
McGarity 70 yards and a 59-yarder before that. McDonald just moments ago with a nice return too.
So 2 of the things that Don Matthews is famous for, Jim Barker has game planned very well for in this game, and so far won the battle in the first half.
But Glenn, we talked about it. These guys have no secrets from each other. I mean, you spend a little bit of time working together and then watching each other. I mean, there are no secrets out there. These 2 teams are running the same deal, aren't they? I mean, the offenses are basically the same.
Absolutely. And all the reps through practice and through the work week to get ready for this game were against familiar offenses. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of surprise. Of course, both coaches will put in a couple of wrinkles, and they have to alter things a little bit for personnel changes.
David Heisman, who is listed as a backup offensive lineman. The injured Stampeder being helped to the sidelines. There's Pat Clayton, the veteran trainer for Calgary.
We could give Jim Barker the first half, not just in the score, 15-1, but just in the strategy. Now don't put it past Don Matthews to come up with some big-time adjustments at halftime.
Well, and that's why this sequence is important here with 2 minutes and 3 seconds to go for the hometown Stampeders, and flags go down. Lawrence Phillips turns the corner. Nice burst there, but we'll check the infraction. Phillips will have enough for the first down if the penalty is against Montreal. Kevin Johnson over to make the tackle.
Putting in a bigger team that time. Scott Dybert comes into the game at fullback and providing some blocking help for Lawrence Phillips. It's a different formations.
Offside. Montreal, number 75. Penalty is declined. First down.
Way too many penalties for the Alouettes in the opening half.
Man, that will be part of the thing that Don Matthews will talk about at halftime. Is let's eliminate the penalties and stop hurting ourselves first.
That's number 11.
Then you basically what you're doing there is you're putting the Band-Aid on the cut. And then once the Band-Aid's on the cut and the bleeding stops, then we can start to game plan and make adjustments for the second half.
There are the Stampeders set up inside the 30 again. Crandall's done a nice job. Lawrence Phillips can't find much space there.
I like the game plan, though, from Jim Barker here. He's inside the 40-yard line, goes with the running game on first down, try to establish the running game, even though he'd be tempted right now with 1:30 left to try and throw that ball and get anxious, try and throw it into the end zone on every down. Sticks with the running game, establish that, keep that defensive line honest for the Montreal Alouettes, and come back on second and long and throw the football.
And looking a little further than that, you'd be fairly happy to come out with 3 points here.
This is that
in one sense.
Is that no sack zone?
Minute 18 to go till halftime. Penalty flags are all over the field on the toss for Albert Connell. There are 3 flags down. One in the backfield, and 2 upfield.
Couple down the field in that pass interference zone, but there was also 1 flag back in here, so the refs will have to sort that out. It looks like a little bit of contact down the seam, not there from safety William Loftus. That was after the fact. But in the coverage from the halfback, I didn't pick up the number. It looked like Baron Miles.
Forward pass interference. Montreal, number 8. Major foul, roughing the passer. Montreal, number 78.
Wow.
First down.
Well, that's against Reggie Durden. That's penalty number 12. And then against Belly, that's penalty number 13 in the opening half.
My apologies to Baron Miles, who was the other side halfback, Reggie Durden, and then Adriano Belli on the roughing the passer call. Calgary Stampeders are knocking on the door. Albert Connell was a little bit shaken up after he went over to that sideline and got hit by William Loftus.
Remember I said the Stampeders might be content with a field goal? Not anymore. They're down with 1:13 to go. Set up in scoring territory. That's touchdown territory for the Stampeders. Looking at it right now. First and goal to go from the 4. A couple of yards for Phillips.
A wall of white.
Maybe 1 yard for Phillips when they unpile that. He ran into Robert Brown, number 94. And as you say, a wall of white.
wall of white. Robert Brown was the first one, but look at this. There is no go in that middle right there for Lawrence Phillips. Every one of those defensive linemen have their gap responsibility taken care of. Kevin Johnson is up in there along with Ed Fillion.
They actually fired him back. It'll be a loss of 1. So it's 2nd and goal to go from the 5. Pitch to Phillips this time. Nowhere to go one way, nowhere to go the other way. He's wrapped up and loses yardage there. Adriano Belli atones for his earlier mistake.
He really did. He makes this play. Adriano Belli, if he loses containment on the backside of this play, if he comes undisciplined over here, which is very easy for him to do once the play goes away, then that is a touchdown coming back. But you'll see 78 jump back out, make Lawrence Phillips turn to the inside where his help is, and save that touchdown.
Well, and they made him look very ordinary on back-to-back runs. The Alouette defense. Remember that field goal I was talking about that they'd be happy to have? They'll be happy to have it here now. Here you go.
Yeah, points in the red zone anytime.
Yeah.
And
well, yes, but they had the great opportunity at the 4-yard line. 3 cracks at it from there. 2 plays, neither one worked. And so McLaughlin hammers another one through. He's 3 for 3.
Well, hey, John, I mean, the one thing, the Montreal Alouettes have not put their best half of football together here, but this is the defending Grey Cup champions. And a couple things go against them. Some penalty problems in the first half, but they get down there and they get their backs up on the 4-yard line defensively, and there's a lot of pride in each one of those guys. And they say, all right, we're not playing our best football, but we're going to stop it right now and see if we can go and regroup at halftime.
It's a beautiful night for football in Calgary, and if you see flakes flickering across your television screen there, it's not snow.
No, far from.
It's a little pollen in the air this evening, so the asthma sufferers might be under a little stress here tonight at McMahon Stadium, but Calgary fans have to be very excited about what has transpired here in the opening half. First down Montreal, and another quarterback down is Joe Fleming. Gets to Calvillo one more time. Stampeders have a pretty good run when having the lead at halftime since 1991. 114 wins, just 22 losses.
Jim Daly is the one coach, this defensive coordinator, that's returning from the Wally Buono regime, and certainly Jim Barker's happy to have him and all of his experience.
Defensive coordinator and assistant head coach Jim Daly. Second down. Graham for Montreal. That's Jay Graham, number 22. And the Alouettes offense really sputtered in the opening half as we look back on it now.
Well, it is one of the best offensive linemen in the Canadian Football League when they look at that Al's offensive line, but they have struggled in this first half.
And on the other hand, the Calgary Stampeders played well on both sides of the football and are full value for a 17-point lead at the half.
At the half, brought to you by Wendy's, the official hamburger of the CFL. Wendy's, it's better here.
And welcome back into our CFL Live studios. Wow, Dave Randorf, Chris Schultz, Matt Dunnigan, Jock Climby. Very, very interesting in this CFL season opener. Let's review here. One team didn't make the playoffs. One team won the Grey Cup. And right now you can't really tell which is which, but it was Montreal that's had a ton of problems in that first half, showing a surprising lack of discipline along the way, piling up the penalties, and Calgary's made all the big plays, and you've got 2 of them right away.
Well, a bit of a surprise. I mean, I think we thought Calgary was going to play well, but certainly not this well on defense. And special teams was huge for the Calgary Stampeders in the second quarter. And in particular, Wayne McGarity. How about this kid? He's having a whale of a game returning the ball. He had 12 punt returns last year for 66 yards. He's got 59 yards on this return alone. This guy's showing a lot of speed, and right near is crucial. This is what great returners do. He sees the wall of Alouette players all grouped in, and he's thinking, use my speed, get outside, take advantage of the wall. You can only do this if you have great speed, and this guy clearly does. This is something that Don Matthews is going to rip his football team for. Coach Matthews takes a lot of pride in his special teams, and he does not expect to see guys return footballs like that without so much as someone laying a hand on them, Matty.
Well, the entire country's waiting, sitting back, seeing if Calgary is going to come out and be a different football team. Clearly they are. It started with that defensive line. And on offense, I'm particularly impressed with the way they're attacking an aggressive defense. Here you see double tights. What this does is flatten out the defense, and it gives Lawrence Phillips the opportunity just to find a little hole. Doesn't get much here on this play, but it's the concept that is positive. Another way to attack an aggressive defense is to give them flow away. And what they've done is they gave them flow and they cut back. All Lawrence needs is a little crease, and he exploits that for 23 yards on this play. And then another way to dictate to an attacking defense what they can and can't do is change your count. On this play here, it's 1st and 10. Marcus Crandall draws them off sides with a long count. This gives the offense a pre-snap indication of who's coming, who's not, puts them in first and short situation. Again, you're going to be able to dictate to the defense what you want to do offensively. So great game plan by Jim Barker, and why not, Chris? Because he faced this defense all of last year, and he knows how to attack it.
You know what has really surprised me has been the effectiveness of this Calgary defensive line going against, a pretty good Montreal offensive line. These guys are by no means amateurs, and everyone is making plays. Antoine Young comes off the left corner, gets a sack around the corner. That's the #1 issue with an offensive tackle, the outside speed rush. And then Demetrius Maxey does a great job here being patient and just getting his pressure, finding Calfeel. And what happens after you get the pressure on the quarterback? Well, then he gets a little gunshot. Watch right now, the shoulders get turned to protect the body. That is why the interception happened.
Good idea.
And then the same. What happens after all that? Your quarterback ends up limping off the field. 13 penalties for Montreal. 13 in one half of football. And then how about this? Calgary 3 times was inside the 20. They could have got touchdowns. You would add another 12 points. It could easily be 30-1.
Oh, yeah, the 17-point lead right now is good news for Montreal. New era in Calgary. Hello, Albert Connell, Darnell McDonald, and hello, Wayne McGarity. You already saw the return once. Here it is one more time. A 70-yarder, the lone touchdown of the first half, and it was almost all Calgary. 18-1. You're watching Game 1 on Wendy's CFL Live. All right, some prizes to hand out here to Virginia Malore of Regina because of that Wayne McGarity returned punt for the TD. Virginia got some good news for you. You won a prize pack consisting of a whole bunch of stuff, including the nice Bulova Men's Solar Watch, a JVC DVD digital home theater system, and all kinds of great things. Virginia, that is on the way. Now, nearly 5,000 people logged on to our little poll here that we asked way back when we started our preview show. Who do you think is going to win the Grey Cup? And the winner is, in our very unofficial poll, how about that? The BC Lions taking the majority of the vote. It's not an overwhelming majority by any stretch, but they win, followed by the Toronto Argos. How about that? We got more for you right after this. We're at the half. Wendy's CFL Live. Welcome back. Here are the halftime numbers. Not a pretty picture for Montreal, Jock.
Well, who would have thought that veteran offensive line would get beat for 5 sacks? Now look at the time of possession right here. Calgary's dominating in that regard, which is surprising given the much-vaunted Alouette offense.
So let's see what the head coach had to say. Ken Chillibeck spoke with Don Matthews.
Now, the one thing
Don, just talk about the assessment of your team's play in this first half.
Well, that was a bad half of football for us. Penalties, drop balls, and just not very good football. They certainly outplayed us in all phases.
Got to be concerned with the amount of pressure being put on your quarterback in that first half.
There's no question we got to find a way to protect him better so we can get the ball downfield.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. Okay.
That's civilized.
Well, you heard Jock say 5 sacks for the Stamps, 3 for Joe Fleming, including this one for the safety.
And welcome back to McMahon in Calgary. Solid start for the hometown Stampeders. A 17-point advantage on the defending Grey Cup champions. Here's Ken Chillibeck.
Coach, you got to be pleased with the way things went in the first half of your football team.
Well, special teams has stepped up and been huge for us. We got to be better in the score zone. When we get the ball down there against the Grey Cup champions, you can't squander those scoring opportunities. So we threw an interception down there and then didn't get it in 3 times. So we got to be better in that phase of the game.
Putting some great pressure on Cavill. That was huge in the first half.
Yeah, our defensive front's going to be good, and it's just a matter of them staying after it now for 4 quarters.
Coach, appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
As promised, the defensive front would be good for the Stampeders. He's a happy coach, except for the squandered opportunities.
Well, you know, and you always try and improve on your first half, but I think overall, from the outside looking in, that's a solid first half from Marcus Crandall, the offensive unit. They did their job picking up the Montreal blitz. And defensively, I think it's fair to say they dominated in the first half, especially in the front 7.
Well, 5 sacks.
Yeah.
This is clear domination.
In 1 half, that's dominant play.
Sacks. When you consider this team had 24 all last season, as we pointed out.
Now the question is, what type of adjustments will Don Matthews make offensively to stop that pressure? Now, he won't get a chance in the first series because Calgary takes the ball. They deferred. They won the toss and took the ball in the second half.
Here's how the quarterbacks stacked up. Anthony Calvillo just 2 of 9. That's 22.2% passing for Calvillo. In fairness, he was pressured a lot of the way. Marcus Crandall 10 of 19. 1 interception, no touchdowns. 52.6% for him. McDonald returning for the Stampeders out across the 45 to about the 47-yard line. Met there by Kwame Cavill, another of the Alouette newcomers. 22 on the return, and Marcus Crandall set to go back to work.
When you look at the Stamps in the first half, 1 touchdown, and that's what Jim Barker was talking about, those 3 field goals. You turn those into touchdowns, and the score is almost out of reach. Crandall got down inside the score zone and was turned away, but defensively, it's a different thing when you're down there backed up against your own goal line.
Well, Connell had a great return, getting Calgary deep, a 64-yarder. McGarity, a 59-yarder that didn't net points. Here's an interception picked off by Montreal with flags down.
Baron Miles, John, and it's just a matter of whether or not Calgary was offside, or Calgary had the procedure call, or Montreal was offside.
And the way it went in the first half, you'd bet that Montreal might have been offside with 13 Alouette penalties, and there's the indication that Marcus Crandall is believing that.
Offside, Montreal, number 54. First down repeated.
Mark Megna gets called, and that's a huge turnaround. Baron Miles read that perfectly, jumped underneath that short throw from Marcus Crandall, but Mark Megna, the false start.
14th penalty against the Alouettes. It's cost 76 yards and likely points on this play.
You saw him to the right of your screen.
Second and 5, Stampeders at the 50. Crandall on target. He'll have a first down at the 50.
You know, that is a huge turnaround, and some
McGarity makes the catch. Sorry.
Sometimes mistakes, John, are caused by lack of discipline. I truly believe, though, this was a mistake by Mark Megna that was created from Marcus Crandall's snap cadence. I mean, he just got up under the center, changed up the snap count, and he actually drew Mark Megna offside with his voice. That was really an offensive play. Turnaround and interception in what would have been a huge momentum swing in this game early in the second half from Baron Miles.
Baron Miles, an All-Canadian last season. Stampeders another first down. Crandall shotgun. Couldn't get away from the initial rush of Mark Thompson, the middle linebacker. He slowed him down enough for the tackle.
Yeah, that was a good look at the new middle linebacker, Mark Thompson, and got a chance on a little bit of a stunt with the pressure. Came in around Anwar Stewart. Middle linebacker spot, Mark Thompson, raw rookie out of the college ranks at Richmond. And he just came around and provided pretty good pressure up the middle. Showed his quickness, even though he's a big man at 245.
Second down and 14.
4-yard loss. Stampeders back at midfield. 3 receivers far side, and that's where Crandall looks. couldn't connect with our lane. Or Darnell McDonald, I should say.
Well, and you know, when you make a mistake, and it doesn't matter what position you play, you always want to try and dig down deep. Watch Mark Magna on the end of the line here. He just goes off in a hurry to try and get that sack on Marcus Crandall, trying to make up for the mistake he made on the Baron Miles interception.
Duncan Mahoney standing at his 41. I should say Omani. The all-Canadian punter puts it right down to the goal line, and the Alouettes struggling back there. Donna Green met by George White, and the Alouettes start deep in their own zone one more time. George White, a two-time All-Canadian, looks pretty good in red and white, doesn't he?
Yeah, he joined the Saskatchewan Roughriders about halfway through the season after a tryout with Green Bay last year, and signed as a free agent in Calgary this year. He helps the defense, as does Davis Sanchez, a Canadian on the corner. A couple of years in San Diego with the Chargers, but his last year in the CFL in the year 2000 led the league in interceptions with 9, and have a Canadian playing on the corner really is a ratio changer for a team. Boy, the Calgary Stampeders happy to have him.
And in Joe Fleming and Demetrius Maxey, and you can see why the Stampeders are able to dominate the Alouettes so far here tonight. Alouettes starting deep in their own zone, and White was there to grab Kwame Cavill, number 82, another of the Alouette newcomers.
Well, John, you're absolutely right. When you start to add up all the building blocks of this defense, as George White shows his great speed to the outside, start adding up all those blocks, you've got a brick house. And George White was an all-star with Saskatchewan a couple of years back.
Alouette gain limited to 3 at 2nd and 7 for Calvillo now. Tight coverage, and Copeland couldn't hang on.
William Fields came in behind and got another hand on that football. Very tight coverage on Jermaine Copeland. And no flag on the play, so the Calgary Stampeders once again will get tremendous field position, something they've had this entire game.
The defense has been just short of spectacular, forcing the Alouettes into 7 2-and-out so far in the game.
And it's Wayne McGarity back to return the punt. He has a touchdown already in this one.
And a 59-yard return prior to that for McGarity. Stampeders will get good field position, but Kellett will not kick it.
Wise choice by Don Matthews. Give up 2, keep the field position.
McMahon in Calgary for the kickoff to 2003. Sports Center comes your way with the Titian and Price right after we're done. CFL highlights and previews, looking ahead to a busy opening week in the CFL, a baseball story.
I've got an early wager for you, buddy. Joe Fleming's name is mentioned in Sports Center tonight.
Likely in the headline. Likely in the headline.
You're saying it's a safe bet?
I'm saying it's a safe bet. Fleming has 3 sacks. The Stampeders have 5 in total. And it's nice to see Joe Fleming back.
You know, you watch him for a half of football, and throughout your football career as a player, you work so hard all the time. It becomes a business to try and win that Grey Cup, win that championship. And once you do, it changes things for you. And that looks to me like Joe Fleming's just out there having fun, isn't he?
McDonald out to about the 38. Stopped by Richard Carey. Stampeder head coach Jim Barker still thinking about the touchdowns that kind of slipped through his fingers, but the Stampeders did get field goals in spite of those opportunities they squandered. Randall had a target, no catch for McGarity.
Took a peek. He took a peek down the field. That blitz was picked up so well across the board. Gave Crandall nice time in there to get the ball out of the pocket. And Wayne McGarity just took a peek. Watch Scott Dybert step up. He takes on the blitz. took a hit at the very end of the play, but he had lots of time to throw it out, and everybody was coming from the Montreal Alouettes. There's the open receiver, little peek. Wayne McGarity down the field, and the ball slips through his fingers.
Interesting stat there for the Stampeders. At 155 yards. 2nd and 10 Calgary. Crandall has time. Penalty markers go down, and no catch on the near sideline. Don Blair was the intended receiver. Omar Evans was covering.
Lester Pope on the outside picks up the blitz this time. Big number 65. That's a big man on the corner. Working on Anwar Stewart. He pushes him past. And there's a nice throwing lane for Marcus Crandall. That's exactly the view that Don Blair saw.
Holding Calgary, number 65. Penalty is declined. 3rd down.
Well, I didn't see a whole lot of holding there from Mr. Pope, and we had it ISO.
Oh, Lester. That's his name. Oh, Lester Pope.
Well, that was just a little push by the quarterback. I didn't see much holding, but the refs saw it differently.
Donna Green drops back for the Alouettes. Duncan Omani standing at his 24. Green on the dead run, and flags go down as he steps out of bounds just inside the Montreal 40. These guys were on the same sideline last year in Montreal, and well, Parker on the left is winning the battle tonight, isn't he?
Well, look at the field position difference. Calgary has started on their own 44 on average on every drive. Montreal on their own 28, a difference of 16 yards per possession. That is tremendous. That is huge. You talk about a game of real estate, and the player who wins and the team who controls that real estate 9 times out of 10 will win the game.
There was no penalty on the previous play, so it's 1st down Montreal. Donta Green.
Well, you see one of the adjustments right out of the gate for Anthony Calvillo in this offense. They had trouble with the pressure from Calgary defensively in the first half. So what did they do? Calvillo goes to the quick game. Get the ball out of my hands as quickly as possible and into the hands of the receivers.
From the shotgun. Calvillo. Screen pass for the points. And he's got 5 and maybe 7 yards there.
Again, strategy change. Little strategy change. I mean, this is a guy who, when you look at his numbers from a year ago, he knows how to adapt on the fly. CFL All-Canadian. Eastern Division outstanding player. Oh, by the way, he was the MVP of the biggest game of the year. And he will make adjustments on the fly, calling his own plays. He's gone now to a quick screen to the outside and then a screen to Eric Lapointe.
Lapointe actually gets 5. This is 2nd and 5 Montreal. Calvillo stands in confidently, has Coleman, and Coleman with speed to burn. Dragged down by Lawrence Deck, number 36. So this is the deepest penetration of the evening for the Alouettes. You talked about adjustments. They have made several here.
Yeah, and here it is again. He goes to the quick screen to the outside. Now his offensive line, when you watch them, they only have to hold for a couple steep points. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Ball's out of there. Calvillo on 1st down went to the quick screen to the outside. Then he dumped to Derek Lapointe. Now this is a short crossing pattern to Chris Coleman. Getting the ball out of his hands in a hurry.
Coleman has 37 yards. The Alouettes threaten here. Calvillo stands in. No receivers open. Takes out. Stopped at the 12. Anthony Calvillo had it close up on him rather quickly there. Moving up was Davis Sanchez.
Well, this time Calvillo will use his legs to move around in the pocket, but there's a couple of ways you try and beat a blitz or pressure from the opposing defense. One way is to try and block it up. In other words, bring more running backs and receivers into the mix and try and protect. The other way is to get the ball out of their hands. That's the play before to Coleman. Get it out of your hands in a hurry.
2nd down and 10. Alouettes just outside the Stampeder 10. Calvillo won't get it away. Down one more time, and Joe Fleming is there to celebrate one more time.
He's having a game.
Well,
Welcome back, Joe.
We missed you.
Well, and this is a bit of a coverage sack right here. Joe Fleming, one-on-one, steps up the field. Good, strong right hand. He swims the left arm up and over. And that's awful tough for that offensive line. You think he's having a little bit of fun back in football?
I'd say so. 7 sacks for the Stampeders thus far. Joe Fleming has 4. Matt Kellett has 3, and the Alouettes crawl back a little bit closer. It's the Stampeders on top, 20-4. It's the season opener at McMahon in Calgary. So far, 7 sacks of food donated by Purolator to the Calgary Food Bank, and slight correction as they have looked at Joe Fleming's totals. That's only 3 sacks for Fleming so far tonight. Only 3 sacks.
Calvillo looks at that first read. It's not there. He has to go back. In the first couple of plays of that series, when Calvillo had some success, he went to the first receiver automatically, took the ball and threw it out there in a hurry. That time, the coverage was good downfield. Looked to the first read, it wasn't there. When he turned around, 76 was there.
And waiting. First down, Stampeders from the 35 after the Montreal field goal. Nicely tossed by Crandall. And Albert Connell was there.
Well, the one thing about the Calgary offense so far is that they've had confidence, and that being because of the field position they've enjoyed. But Marcus Crandall, who is now calling his own plays. Remember, under Wally Buono, especially back when George Cortez was the offensive coordinator here in Calgary, the quarterback had the plays sent in, every play from the sideline. So Crandall kind of grew up in that environment. Now he's got to settle in and call his own. He's done a nice job in this game.
It is another Stampeder first down. A little swing pass. Marcus Crandall connecting with McDonald, or rather McGarity, number 86.
And you always have question marks in game one. You look down the board for these Stampeders. Wayne McGarity, a couple of nice returns, has shown some signs on offense as well with his great quickness. You know, we've seen some Albert Connell catches down the seam. He's made some big plays. Darnell McDonald on the outside has also provided a target, as has Montreal Lane. So some of those questions answered so far early in this game.
Second down, 3 to go. Marcus Crandall, plenty of time, and it's picked up. Intercepted by Barron Miles. Whoa! And Miles paid the price on the return. Jeff Pilon with the hit on Barron Miles. So this interception for the Baron will stand.
Barron Miles plays the game of football with his eyes as much as he does with his legs. He is such an experienced halfback, and he is on this side of the thing. He's going to drop out here, Barron Miles, but he's always got his eyes on the play, and he's going to steal one on the backside. Marcus Crandall does not account for Barron Miles in the coverage. He thinks he's cleared out to the left side of the formation. Miles uses his eyes. He reads the quarterback and slides right under that throw. Seven interceptions for Barron Miles a year ago. All Canadian. 22 interceptions on his career. And Barron Miles in the preseason in Quebec City. This guy, I'll tell you how good of an athlete Barron Miles is. Preseason in Quebec City, he lined up as a wide receiver in the first play of the game, and Anthony Calvillo hit him on a long bomb. And he out-jumped a defender to come down with the football.
They've been talking about getting him in an offensive sequence all the way back to last season, and finally got around to it in the preseason in Quebec City. The touchdown for Barron Miles. Behind the intended target, and Fields was covering a little too closely that time.
Well, you know, William Fields learns. He learned from the last series a little bit that Anthony Calvillo wants to go to the quick game, so rather than hesitate, he just jumped that one. But Calvillo's going right back, trying to get that ball out of his hands in a hurry, give his offensive line some help.
Tough first half for the All-Canadian Anthony Calvillo. Just 2 completions, more confidence here in the second half. Throw to the far side, and there's another strike short of the first down on 2nd and 10. Jermaine Copeland brought it in, and we'll see where they spot the ball and how close the Alouettes are to maybe thinking about going for this.
Well, you know, Don Matthews last year with the Alouette team he had last year that won the Grey Cup did gamble in these situations many times. Now they're down 20-4, so it takes a little bit of the gamble out of this decision. It's a long one.
3rd down and a long yard to go. Alouettes go gambling here. Calvillo himself.
Oh, I don't know.
It's close.
You're going to have to measure this one, I'm sure. The right side of that offensive line got pushed back about a half a foot, and Calvillo had to change directions. Anytime you change directions as a quarterback on that sneak, it takes that much more time, and wait for that pile to clear out. The ball's got to be up over that line, that 50-yard line of Calgary.
There will be a measurement, most certainly. It is pretty close.
Watch the surge here.
Watch the right side. Good penetration by the defensive line. See, Calvillo had to readjust and go back the opposite way. And this will be very close.
Does the gamble pay off for Don Matthews? An anxious moment.
Didn't get it.
As you see, the indication comes from Alondra Johnson. No breaks for the Dawn tonight.
That goes down as a turnover on downs, but it is huge momentum for the Calgary Stampeders, who build on that momentum. Look at the surge from the triangle of doom up front. And when you look at the turnover situation, couple for Calgary, but that is a big one, because not only is it a turnover on downs, but it's a huge momentum builder. It's a huge lift for your entire team when you can stand them up with a yard to go and turn them back.
Well, the Alouettes were moving the ball more effectively in the second half. At least playing with a little more confidence offensively. Nice play action fake by Crandall. He's got an open man. Oh, he had Darnell McDonald and just overthrew him.
Kevin Johnson came on a blitz. The reason that Crandall even had time to throw that ball was another nice block by Lawrence Phillips in the middle of that offensive formation. And Marcus Crandall just missed Albert Connell. They continue to send pressure, Montreal does. Watch Lawrence Phillips in the middle of your screen right there. Take on number 44, cut him down. That gives Crandall a chance to throw it, and misses by inches.
You talked about the dimension that Lawrence Phillips brings as a blocker. That's one thing that all his coaches have talked about. That ability. Crandall one-handed that. Well, had to rush the throw for Don Blair.
You know, and this time Montreal says, okay, you picked up the last blitz with your running back in Lawrence Phillips, so we're going to send one more. So here's what we're going to do. Phillips is going to step up here and take that blitz, but watch. We're going to send one more if you're Montreal. We're going to send Timothy Strickland off the edge. Now you just don't have enough to block us. And Marcus Crandall pays the price. Bang. Right around the neck, and that's very close to a rough play penalty on Tim Strickland. When he gets his hands and arms up around the head of the quarterback, he got away with it.
Duncan O'Mahony near the 35. Down to Green. He just about had that one blocked. This is Green for Montreal. Inside the 20. And special teams have been rather special for the Stampeders in all phases of this game tonight. Alouettes are 1st and 10, beginning at the 20. Calvillo gets it unloaded in a hurry.
Calvillo's pass is caught by number 82, Kwame Calvillo, but there is a marker down.
Kwame Calvillo makes the catch.
If it's dead.
Quick screen. He's got that ball out of there in less than 2 seconds. Screen to the wide receiver, Kwame Calvillo. But well, it looks like it's going to go against the Calgary Stampeders. The penalty.
There's no infraction on the play. First down.
It'll be a first down. And a gain of 21.
There's a couple of times the officials have thrown the flag and there has not been a penalty. And I guess they're going through their training camp, finishing off as well a little bit.
Well, I think it's terrific when they realize it. But it's dropped to here. Eric Lapointe on the draw. Nice hole opens up for the graduate of Mount Allison. Former Mountie has nice yardage there. Kelly Malvo over to make the tackle.
Well, Lapointe does two things well in this play. Number one, he hits the hole quickly. Once he gets the football, watch how quickly he accelerates through that hole. That gets him past that strong defensive line of the Calgary Stampeders, and then he just uses his eyes in the open field. One man to beat, gets him down, Kelly Malvo.
18 yards the game. And William Fields has the target tied up. That's down to Green.
See, the strategy right now for Montreal does take the defensive line for Calgary a little bit out of the picture, because when you're throwing the ball that quickly, you barely get out of your stance as a defensive line. However, what it does do is bring the secondary for the Calgary Stampeders into play, because all it takes is Davis Sanchez one time to jump one of those quick outs or quick throws to the outside, and it's see ya.
Second and long, Montreal. Calvillo unloads. The target is open. Ben Cahoon has the catch, and he's inside the 25.
You know, when your offense is struggling, you look to your veterans to come up with a play that maybe can ignite the offense and bring them along, get them some momentum. This is a catch that Ben Cahoon knows he's going to get smacked. William Fields is coming from the backside, number 29. He hits him in the mouth. As he's coming down, he has to expose his ribs. He has to go up and lay it on the line, but he comes down with the football.
And a 25-yard gain to set the Alouettes up at the 25. Another quick release. Kwame Cavill again. And Kelly Malvo, the tackle, once more.
Well, this just takes the D-line right out of the play. 1, 2, 3, bam, gone. You don't see, you saw one defensive lineman, Monroe, on the outside, who barely got up the field.
The Alouettes are adjusting well here in the late stages of the third quarter. Nice play action fake by Calvillo. End zone toss and a little too far. Jermaine Copeland was the intended receiver. Or at least that was part of the plan. The receiver wasn't anywhere near the football.
Well, and a couple of runs by Eric Lapointe makes that defensive line for Calgary respect him, and that's why that play action pass worked for Calvillo. Gave him time to throw the ball. Eric Lapointe has a little bit of success running the ball. Now the defensive line have to respect it.
2nd and 10. 30,102 at McMahon Stadium tonight. 30+ for the 28th consecutive time. Here's Calvillo, the touchdown toss, a little short and well defended.
Well, some people in Montreal may be wondering why no call was made there on Kelly Malvo, who came over the top of Ben Cahoon.
No penalty flag is down.
But we'll explain one thing. He's right here, and he's going to come across the middle. Kelly Malvo breaks on it and comes over the top. Now, the officials this year, who are always, like players, trying to improve and make the game that much better, have decided, and I agree with this, that if the defensive back comes around the receiver and gets his hand on the ball, in other words, winning the race to the football, that trailing arm will not be pass interference, and that's what happened to Malvo.
So the Alouettes are settling for a field goal from Matt Kellett.
You know, and I love the decision to do that, because if you're a defensive back breaking on the ball and you get there and get your hand on it before the receiver catches it, then it shouldn't be pass interference. All that Ben Cahoon has to do, and what they will start to do, is he has to come there and then come back towards the quarterback. That will make sure that Kelly Malvo can't get over the top. But Kelly Malvo will not be called for interference this year for the left hand if he can get that right hand right there on the football before Cahoon can get it. Now, that one was very, very close, but that's the way the officials want to call it this year. And I like.
So if the hand arrives there first, even if you're going over the top.
Well, even if, let's say, your left hand, which is in the case of Kelly Malvo, gets a hand on the ball, the right hand that is trailing on the back is not part of the play and therefore will not be called pass interference.
I think that explains it pretty well, and that was a pretty good illustration of it right there on the Malvo coverage on Ben Cahoon.
Well, what it does, John, is it allows both the receiver and the defensive back to play and decide things on their own. And you will see receivers start to push off a little bit more to get that separation.
Darnell McDonald returning for the Stampeders after the Alouette field goal. And another nice return, not quite as spectacular as McGarrity's 59-yarder or the 70-yard return for the touchdown, but McDonald has done a nice job on returns as well.
Well, I think that may be the biggest surprise of this game. And I say it because Don Matthews has a reputation for special teams. You know, and they are winning that battle right now. And Don Matthews does not get beat in the category of special teams very often. And if there was one big surprise in the game, it's that.
Well, it's only a 20-yard return, but what it is field position for the Stampeders out at the 45. They have not started drives deep in their own zone frequently tonight. First down, Calgary. Play action fake. Crandall with time and couldn't find a target. He threw that one away.
Yeah, and that's where you see the comfort level we talked about earlier with the quarterback, Marcus Crandall. Enough composure, nice comfort level so that when he sees things start to break down, there's not an open receiver. It's not a bad thing to go 2nd and 10, and it's certainly not a bad play to punt the football every time. It's not necessarily bad, especially when you have a 20-7 lead. Punting the ball and putting your defense back on the field for Jim Barker is not necessarily a negative play.
Barring a penalty, this 2nd and 10 play for the Stampeders will be the final play of the 3rd quarter. Todd Blair in motion. And Blair, the target there. 1 quarter to go with the Stampeders on top by 13.
20-7. The big question we had was, could Calgary continue the momentum from the first half? And for the most part, yes. They continue to play their game while they are forcing Montreal, the Grey Cup champs, to make the adjustments to get something going.
Exactly right, Dave. They are forcing them to do some changes offensively. And I like what they've tried to do. You have to do this offensively, and that's try to get a tempo established. And they do that by going no huddle. Why not? Anthony Calvillo calls his own plays. He wants to establish a rhythm, and it works for him. He hits LaPointe on a little screen there, and then he hits Chris Coleman on a little crosser right here, and he takes it down inside the score zone. And then what happens? 2nd and 10, just too much muscle being flexed by the Stampeder defensive line, and this man's providing most of it, Joe Fleming, and he shows you a little bit of the gun action right there, and to me, it's beautiful. He's back. He had a year off. He's well rested. He says, I'm loving being back in Calgary.
Well, the Alouette defense is getting into the act as well. And I want to have a look at Baron Miles' interception. This man cheats like no other DB in the league. Here he is. He's responsible for this guy. He doesn't care. He's looking over here at this guy because where's Marcus's eyes? Marcus is staring down his receiver on the inside slot. And Baron Miles just comes across and takes the ball right away from the quick slant.
Guys, I think the difference in this game more than anything else, and Matt, I'm going to steal your point, is the emotional intensity of Calgary is about 2 times higher than the emotional intensity of Montreal. Whatever Jim Barker did during training camp, it is proving big in terms of this first game, whatever tempo he used, what he emphasized, what he de-emphasized. It is working. Credit him for getting his team really prepared for this opening game, especially when you consider the only other coach with real CFL experience, Jim Daly, his defensive coordinator. Every other coach, it's his first year in the Canadian Football League.
Don Matthews is coaching for the 18th time tonight in an opening day game, and he is the CFL's all-time winningest head coach, but not a lot of winning on opening day games for Don Matthews. Just 5 wins in 17 tries. They still got 1 quarter left, and they're less than 2 touchdowns away from doing that. Guys?
Well, it's also how you finish at the end, and 5 Grey Cups is closing day in the CFL. Matthews has done that 5 times, but he has improved the Alouettes as far as the stats look going into the 4th quarter here right now.
Made some adjustments at halftime, went to the quick game offensively a little bit, and the numbers are starting to even out a little bit more.
And the Stampeders are forced into a punting situation here as Green waits back near the 25 for Montreal. Duncan O'Mahony. Down to Green. Slowed there on a good effort. Wes Lysak slowed him down, and that was enough for George White to get over and make the tackle. Vastly different story for Anthony Calvillo in the third quarter when you look at those numbers.
And when you look at the numbers, 9 of 13, and he's gone to the quick screens and high percentage throws to get his percentage up and get some yardage out of the talented receivers that he has and running backs, and also at the same time help out his offensive line a little bit. But it is uncharacteristic of the Montreal Alouettes offense because they're used to the protection from that O-line. They're used to having lots of time in the pocket.
Well, this is generally considered to be the top offensive line in the league with 3 All-Canadians riding up front there. Scott Flory, Brian Chew at center, and Zumo Okeke. Loss of a couple by Jay Graham. Calvillo puts it up and overthrew the target there. Penalty marker is down. Dave Stala was the intended receiver.
Otis Floyd got his hands on Ben Cahoon coming across the middle. Cahoon's going to come right across here, and Otis Floyd, number 35, on the backside of the play, is going to wrap him up. Watch him step up and try and eliminate the crosser right there. Now the ball comes out just a little bit later.
Legal contact on a receiver. Calgary, number 35. Second down repeated.
But that is your penalty. Otis Floyd just got his hands and disrupted the pattern enough. An illegal contact call. The drive stays alive for Montreal.
This will be second down. And a yard to go. And easily converted for a first down by Jay Graham. Kelly Malvo to make the tackle on Graham, a rookie out of Tennessee. He's a big one, 230 pounds.
Oh, and Don Matthews and this Alouette offense really doesn't have to panic yet. 13 minutes left is plenty of time. Down by 2 touchdowns is no problem in the CFL.
Calvillo gets more heat and eludes it, throwing into row 3.
Can for the most part stay with the game plan, although the game plan coming in was for Calvillo, whether shotgun or drop back, to stay in that pocket and have some time. And this is what he's been facing all game long. A wall of red jerseys that keep chasing him down. And Mr. Fleming has been all over him. This is one of those games where the quarterback is one of the players that have all the ice bags on. And all the other guys always have ice bags.
There you go, yes.
So this is one of the ones where the quarterback has one too, not just on his throwing elbow, but all over the place.
This is 2nd and 10, Montreal shotgun. Calvillo. The first down will be thwarted.
Well, it's a pretty simple philosophy defensively for Jim Daly. If you're get the offense in 2nd and long, make them throw it to the underneath. Leave the guy underneath open. Ben Cahoon, Jermaine Copeland. Just make them throw it underneath. Come up, make the tackle. It's called 5 yards and a headache, and make them punt the football.
Kelly Malvo's had a pretty nice night too, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's
several key tackles. Another one there, preventing Cahoon from finding first down territory and forcing Matt Kellett into a punting situation. He stands back at the 25. Wayne McGarity waits. A little heat on Kellett. He got it away. And here's McGarity from the 21. Oh, lost the ball. Alouettes come up with it. Alouettes say it's a fumble. Was that the ground that made him fumble the ball? Or did he drop it?
There is shrapnel everywhere. There's equipment. There's helmets rolling on the ground. The football hit the ground. And it looked like in one play, Montreal just said, that's enough.
Have another look. McGarity on the return. Did the ground make him fumble? We'll settle it when we return. Friday Night Football is coming your way with a doubleheader to kick off a new season. We begin with the Renegades and the Tiger Cats in Hamilton and follow that up with the Blue Bombers and the Lions from BC.
The big show, Wendy's Friday Night Football. Just stock your fridge right now. Go out and get the cupboards full.
Get ready. This was a turnover. McGarity lost the ball. He wasn't touched by an Alouette. So it stands as a fumble, and first down Montreal. Stopped right there in his tracks. Sheldon Napastuck wraps up Calvillo.
That was the difference for Wayne McGarity. If you are pushed down or tackled, the ground can't make you fumble. But if you go down on your own, you're live, which means that ball is live. Kevin Johnson recovers it. First big turnover and big field position advantage for the Montreal Alouettes.
Second down. Calvillo to the far side. He won't get the first down.
There's Davis Sanchez with a nice close
on Jermaine Copeland. It's a 9-yard gain. And decision time for the Alouettes here.
There's Sanchez. He's got the deep third of the field, but watch how quickly he comes out of there and closes in a hurry. Made up about 15 yards in 1 second.
This is a gambling situation. Third down, almost 2 yards to go for the Alouettes as they go for it here. Little schoolyard stuff. LaPointe has it. And will he get the first down? He should have it.
All Eric LaPointe. That was a hope and a prayer that was answered by number 5.
Eric LaPointe with a first down, and the Alouettes drive continues. This gamble pays off for Montreal.
Look at Calvillo. He's in big trouble, and he just tries like, oh, my goodness, I got to throw it out of there. But LaPointe gets a nice bounce right to him. Now, at the end of this play, I think he rolled his ankle. He is still down on the sideline, but what an effort by Eric LaPointe to pick up the first down, because that play had no shot of working.
Don't forget to buy your tickets for the Stampeders.com games on Canada Day, Tuesday, July 1st. Stampeders.
2 injured players on the field. Joe Fleming being tended to there by Pat Clayton. And Eric LaPointe as well. It's a timeout here. We're in the fourth quarter. Here's the game story brought to you by Sport Check.
Wayne McGarity, 70-yard punt return for a touchdown. He, of course, fumbled as well, but a big return early.
Stampeders with 7 quarterback sacks, 3 by Joe Fleming.
LaPointe is limping off the field right now. Looked like an ankle problem. Here's the play one more time. Aries Monroe gets upfield. That causes some problems, but LaPointe on his own gets the first down.
The game story brought to you by Sport Check, Canada's largest sporting goods retailer. Sport Check, the best value.
Now, Joe Fleming also injured on the play. He walked off pretty much on his own. Looks like he'll be okay. Now, he has to stay out for 3 plays because Pat Clayton went out onto the field.
So here are the Alouettes with the first down. At the 15, Calvillo takes the end zone now. Bruno Happel touches the ball for the first time tonight.
Bruno Happel.
And he'll get a first down, and this drive for Montreal continues. The Alouettes down by 13.
Bruno Happel gets out and becomes a receiver on the play, and this is not a situation that Calgary wants Joe Fleming on the bench. He's got to sit out 2 more plays with Montreal down on the 4-yard line.
It is a first down for the Alouettes. 3 cracks at it from there, the 4-yard line. Second effort, yes, they get it. Jay Graham, number 22, has his first CFL touchdown. Helmets coming loose all over the place, all over the field tonight.
Well, there's some big-time contact down on that field, and that's where Montreal went right at. They went right at the spot where Joe Fleming normally plays.
Well, at this stage of things, it's time to buckle up those chin straps with 9:26 to go, and the Alouettes closing. They're within a touchdown now, and within 6 points as a result of that. So a touchdown for the Alouettes puts them into the lead after the Stampeders looked so impressive in the opening half. Alouettes with 3 cracks at it from the 4-yard line. They only need 1.
Well, this offense has started to roll a little bit in the second half. They finally cap off a drive. They take advantage of the Wayne McGarity fumble on the punt. get good field position for basically the first time in this game to start a drive and are right back in it. A converted touchdown away from taking the lead.
Jay Graham into the end zone behind Neil Fort. And let's see what the Stampeders do to respond to that. Alouettes special teams covering well there on the return by McDonald.
You want to capitalize on turnovers when your offense comes on the field, and 5 plays after that fumble, Montreal Alouettes were in the end zone.
So McGarity has taken one back all the way for a Stampeder touchdown.
So he's basically even on the afternoon.
He is basically even. And
because he took one and he gave one.
That's true. The Stampeders lead by 6. Here's Lawrence Phillips. Nice move in heavy traffic by Phillips. Anwar Stewart was there waiting to make the tackle.
Now the question is Eric Lapointe and his ankle. Remember, it was Eric Lapointe's play on 3rd down. Keep the drive alive for Montreal that gave them a chance for that touchdown. And they are looking at that left ankle. And you can't play the game without a shoe. So he's definitely out for a while, which would put Jay Graham in the game.
Lawrence Phillips picked up 9. This is 2nd and 1 Calgary. Phillips gets the call again, and he won't get the first down this time. He'll lose yardage. Mark Thompson, number 12.
You know, and
the middle linebacker was there.
John, it doesn't take much. You know, playing on the defensive side of the ball, when you watch your offense take advantage, put the ball in the end zone, defensively, you get that spark. You just feel a little bit better. You walk out there with a little bit of hop on your step on the next one. And Mark Thompson and the boys shut him down. 2 and out. Give the ball right back to Anthony Calvillo.
Lawrence Phillips hits the sidelines. Duncan O'Mahony steps in. Inside the 20. And waiting for it is Donta Green. O'Mahony's kick. A one-hopper to Green. His best return so far tonight. He's across midfield. And the Alouettes are building on this momentum. Wes Lysak making the tackle there after a 27-yard return. You can vote for the player of the game, brought to you by Rogers AT&T Wireless. Imagine getting more from your phone. Well, basically, you can vote for the player of the game by email or by text messaging. There are fine prizes involved.
Now, yeah, the text messaging thing is pretty interesting, because what you do is you got the number of the player. So if you want Joe Fleming, say,
yep,
that's 76, and you go Calgary, so it's C76 you plug in. That's your vote.
On text messaging.
Yeah.
That explains it pretty clearly there. Now you'll explain text messaging at some point.
So if you wanted to give it to Anthony Calvillo, then you go M13 into your message.
And that would be your vote.
And that's your vote. Montreal, number 13.
You're a tech whiz.
Well, I can explain it because it's on this little piece of paper that I was given before the game. But it is pretty cool. The fans can get involved with picking the player of the game.
And we'll let you know who you voted for and chose before we're done tonight. But with 6:40 to go, there's lots of time remaining. Hold on to those votes. Big time hit, Calvillo.
Under the C-3-8.
Yeah, that was
C-3-8.
That was George White on Chris Coleman.
Well, if you wanted voted for a play of the game, this might be it, just for the fun of it. George White dropping back and saying hello on the crossing pattern. Bam! Chris Coleman, welcome to the big leagues.
8 receptions for Coleman in the preseason, 154 yards. Not surprisingly, he couldn't hang on to that one.
And McGarity couldn't hang on to the last punt.
I'm sure that's running through his mind as he stands back at the 5 now.
Gotta let it go.
Pat Kellett.
And this will make it worse for him. It's an interesting scenario. It's kind of like a defensive back who just got beat for a touchdown. The next time you walk on the field, you have to have a short memory. It's gone. You just, anything negative is gone. And right now, Wayne McGarity is in that battle.
Procedure, Montreal, number 30. Third down repeated.
In his mind right now, he's trying to block out the images of putting the ball on the ground and costing his team a touchdown. He's trying to visualize breaking a tackle and going the other way for another touchdown and making it 2 on his night. So it's a tough game that every player has to go through.
You had me chuckling there. How short was your memory? 4 or 5 seconds sometimes.
Pardon me, what were we talking about?
C-38.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Here's McGarity. Hang on. Mr. McGarity. And the return not quite as effective as it was earlier in the evening. Michael Pottero leading the tacklers there. 1st and 10 Calgary, and we're coming right back. Stampeders had a great opening half. The Alouettes have responded here to make for a big finish. Lawrence Phillips spins for a couple with 5:30 to go.
Well, 5:30 is a lot of time, and Jim Barker now has to guard against becoming too conservative offensively, and that's 3 running plays in a row for the Calgary Stampeders. Now granted, one was 2nd and 1 yard, so you want to run the ball on that. But Crandall, who's calling the plays in the huddle, and Jim Barker, who talked to him, has got to get back to that first half where the numbers were 146 and get it out of there.
Less than 30 yards and an interception in the second half for Marcus Crandall. Alouettes have responded, and the Stampeders have dropped a couple along the way as well. Darnell McDonald couldn't hang on there. Baron Miles was covering. Crandall is 0 for his last 6, so the collar gets a little tighter here.
Well, it certainly does. It's completely different mindset. Oh, and offensively, you're playing in your own half of the field, and that's been one of the big differences from the first half to the second half. First half, Calgary and Marcus Crandall got to play in Montreal's side of the field.
And there were big special teams plays.
Yeah,
by McGarity. A 59-yard return and then the 70-yard return for 7. So here's a low snap. Manny takes it off the turf. He's lucky to get any yardage on this one. And O'Mani looks to recover it. And those flags are surrounding the Calgary punter.
Now the officials throw the flag automatically when they see a red shirt inside the 5-yard, no yards area. And then they'll sort out afterwards whether or not it was just Duncan O'Mani that was in there, because he's allowed to go inside that area and recover the ball.
Absolutely. Now O'Mani makes a pretty good play just to get a foot on this ball and advance it upfield after the low snap.
It was. I agree 100%. And I had a quick flashback to Louis Pasaglia and the great athlete that he was. Well, still is, but not playing football anymore, retired and with the BC Lions organization. But he did that all the time, and that was a tremendous play by Duncan O'Mani to kick it out of the air.
There's no infraction on the play. First player to touch the ball was 97 Calgary. He is the kicker. Montreal recovered the ball. First down.
So a 24-yard punt for O'Mani.
That's pretty athletic play from your punter.
He almost got it.
He did, and in case you haven't noticed that this is a ball that has 2 points on each end. There's a point there, and what happens, it doesn't bounce correctly all the time.
No, it doesn't bounce straight up to you. Here are the Alouettes on first down. Jay Graham behind Scott Fleury there. The NHL draft comes your way Saturday. We'll have the whole story from Nashville, Tennessee with our NHL team. The entry draft beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Time Saturday afternoon. Down to Nashville.
Heart and soul of country music.
Second down. What a catch.
Oh, man.
It's a beauty. That's Ben Cahoon. And that's a first down for the Alouettes. Kelly Malvo made the stop. And this Montreal drive continues with less than 4 minutes to go. Watch Cahoon go up and bring it down.
Well, the pitcher tells the story right there. Nice catch.
All Calgary in the first half, all Montreal here in the second. Jay Graham again.
Now Joe Fleming, John, is back in the game. Number 76 was in on that tackle. Eric Lapointe is not. So it will be Jay Graham. But Fleming back in the game. Good news for the Calgary Stampeders and their fans.
Well, bad news for the Stampeders. This momentum has completely shifted in Montreal's favor. Couple of Kellett field goals and then the touchdown by Jay Graham, set up on the brilliant play by Eric Lapointe, who's currently on the sidelines. 3 minutes to go. Big finish guaranteed in Calgary. Eric Lapointe on the sidelines. Here's Ken Chillibeck with the update.
Yeah, John, unfortunately that last big play that he made that right now keeps Montreal in the potential of winning this game. Well, it was his last right now. Apparently a sprained left ankle. That's about as much as they will tell us right now, but obviously he's not going to be back in this game. So a tough break, so to speak, for the Montreal Alouettes, but right now in good scoring position.
Yeah, and things continue to go well for the Alouettes. Well, apparently this might go against Montreal again.
Yeah, just to wrap up that Eric Lapointe thought, you know, frustrating for him. He had a pretty good game going and made what Ken was just alluding to, the big play of that third down gamble. Get that major on the board for Montreal, get a chance to be the feature back and twist his ankle. Hopefully Eric Lapointe is back as quickly as possible, because that's frustrating for a guy who's worked for 4 years to get that starting spot, been told the whole time that he deserves it, and not been able to do it, and then finally gets it tonight and then sprains his ankle. So hopefully he's back in a hurry.
Eric Lapointe is a Tiger Cat when he broke into the league, and he had some great games.
Well, yeah, I mean, his first game as a Tiger Cat, he had 187 yards rushing, and it was then that everyone's thought and started talking about the fact that, hey, this guy could be feature back. And for 4 years, coaches have said that, but he's played behind Mike Pringle. He's played behind Lawrence Phillips. Don Matthews has said it for a couple of years, that on a lot of other teams, Eric Lapointe is the starting tailback. And because of the departure of Phillips, the departure of Mike Pringle, he's got his chance. And then he twists his ankle.
The discussion continues here.
For procedure, Montreal, number 53, second down repeated.
It took a while. That's what the Stampeders had figured out all along.
Well, they wanted to make sure the officials got it right because it's a big one.
So it goes from 2nd and 7.
2nd and 12, and it's a big difference because that takes most of your running game, well, in fact, all of your running game, except for maybe a quick draw, which I doubt Montreal will do without Lapointe in the game. Takes that out of your playbook.
And it makes for a field goal try that's a little longer. Calvillo won't get it away. He's wrapped up again. Kelly Malvo. That would be C3.
If you're voting on your telephone, C3 could be a candidate. Kelly Malvo on the blitz that time, and really the pocket collapsed on Calvillo. When he dropped back there, it just started collapsing from all areas. Watch how they come. Here comes Malvo, number 3, off the edge. We see how it's collapsing, and now as it collapses around him, Anthony Calvillo almost has to bend down, shrink in there, and then Malvo catches him from behind.
8 sacks for the Stampeders in their home opener tonight. Matt Kellett will try a 41-yard field goal, and he's got it. It's an interesting story. Matt Kellett just joined the Alouettes about 48 hours before they headed to Calgary.
John, that's a big kick. He was cut loose by the BC Lions. You know, he didn't have a terrible season last year, Matt Kellett.
He had a terrible game.
But he had one bad game, and it really caused the BC Lions as a team to lose confidence in him. And that was one of the reasons that Wally Buono cut him loose. Montreal picked him up because Don Matthews had some frustrating moments in camp with their kickers. They brought in 2 kickers, and they put him to the test from the 40-yard line, and they gave him 18 kicks each. One of the kickers went 9 of 18. The other went 6 of 18. The names are not important at this point.
Well, they will be.
One went 9 of 18. One went 6 of 18. And Don Matthews said, we got to find a kicker.
50% isn't good enough. 6 of 18 is horrible.
Matt Kellett was available, and they grabbed him.
It's a 3-point game. First down, Stampeders. That was batted down at the line. Marcus Crandall ran into Kevin Johnson.
It's the one time that Lawrence Phillips all game long was a little slow on his read to pick up Kevin Johnson on the blitz. Lawrence Phillips is here, and he's got to get into this hole. He's a little bit slow. It's 44. Watch him come through the hole. Now Phillips recognizes him and just can't get there in time. Kevin Johnson gets his hand on the right arm of Marcus Crandall.
Now the pressure builds on Marcus Crandall here. That's over his last 7 passes, Glenn. 2:29 to go. The Stampeders had a big lead. It's disappeared. They hold on to a 3-point advantage. He gets the target here. Maybe a little shy of the first down. We'll check the spot, but Albert Connell comes up with a huge catch.
A courageous throw from Marcus Crandall. I say that because the pressure was coming from Timothy Strickland off the edge, and he knew he was going to get hit, and his arm was probably going to get hit in a big way. He stood in there and threw a difficult pass to the outside. That's an out pattern right there to Albert Connell. A tough throw to make with pressure right in your face.
4th catch for Connell. He's got 100 yards. His longest 64. Set up a field goal for the Stampeders, and let's see how close he got to the first down here.
You know, and that's probably the best case scenario for Calgary, because they're basically an inch away, which can be a waste down. You got to get an inch offensively. So Jim Barker will not only get one more offensive play, take some more time off the clock, but he'll also end up with a first down, provided there's no fumble, and that's really the only risk for him.
Well, he knows he's been in a football game tonight in his first evening as head coach of the Stampeders during the regular season.
Well, and the goal for him right now with 2:24 to go with his offense is not necessarily a major. They need to put about 3 or 4 first downs together and get in field goal range, because the difference of tying the game with a field goal is a big difference to getting that major to win it.
So Crandall looking at 3rd down and inches. And that was really the only play there. Just keep it yourself.
But you see what Crandall did is he had a real long snap count there, and he took as much time off the clock as he could and snapped the ball at the last second, got the first down.
Jim Barker is the 2nd coach of the Calgary Stampeders since 1990. And look what other teams have done.
Well, it's just amazing, really. I mean, Wally Buono from 1990 all the way until just last year. Jim Barker the 2nd, and then the rest of the teams, Toronto with 12.
Barker was one of those 12 Toronto coaches.
1999, that's right.
First down, Stampeders, hanging on to a 3-point lead. Lawrence Phillips seemed to hesitate, and Anwar Stewart was there waiting for him. So a couple of flashes for Lawrence Phillips, but on his last few carries, he really has been stymied, hasn't he?
Well, he has, and you know, the philosophy offensively for Calgary has changed drastically since they've been playing in their own end. They've gone to a very conservative style of game, handing the ball off on first down time after time to Lawrence Phillips, who struggled trying to pick up at least 5 or 6. You know, the idea from Jim Barker is to work as much time off the clock as you can, and using the running game will do that. The downside is you don't get a yard on first down, and you've got that Montreal blitzing defense coming after Marcus Crandall.
Well, yeah, and look what you've got on the clock. 1:41 to go. You're looking at 2nd and 9.
I would say,
and the advantage has dropped to 3 points.
I would say the word to describe this next play coming up: big.
Big?
Big.
You are a master. Crandall got it away. And that wasn't big enough for the Calgary Stampeders. Crandall got the completion to Albert Connell, but Calgary will have to kick it to Montreal with 1:36 on the clock and a 3-point advantage.
Calgary felt they were in second and long, and Montreal would send everybody at them, all those linebackers, full out blitz. So the play call was to go to the quick hit screen to the outside to Albert Connell. And Montreal dropped out of it and was there right there to make the tackle. Don Matthews gets what he wants, and that's a punt from Duncan O'Mahony with lots of time.
And we'll send you to Sports Center as soon as we're wrapped up here at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. It's been an adventure for Duncan O'Mahony tonight. Standing at his 36. Wow. It's low. And there'll be no return with 1:11 to go. Petition and Price, we'll have it all for you. Sports Center comes your way as soon as the final gun sounds here at McMahon.
And it doesn't look like we will know the outcome of this game until the final gun, because it's in the balance.
It is definitely there.
There's
The
your
game story. McGarity with a big start. Alouettes coming back with 16 points in the second half.
Defending champs aren't going to lie down.
Calgary with a 17-point lead at halftime. And here come the Alouettes. This is Jermaine Copeland to the 50. They're in field goal range with another first down.
The difference, John, in one play, Anthony Calvillo gets the time he needs to drop back and hit Copeland way down the field. Now they can go to the running game, try and pick up another first down and kick the tying field goal.
4 first downs in the first half, 12 in the second. And the Alouettes still on the move.
Cavill's pass is complete. Number 82,
Kwame Cavill to the 35 with 52 seconds to go.
Well, there's still time for Montreal to win this game outright. You know, that's the mentality Don Matthews will have. They're not going to get conservative and try and kick the field goal to tie it.
Not yet, anyway. There was contacts, but not a penalty marker down on the pass intended for Chris Coleman. And the coverage supplied by rookie safety Lawrence Deck.
Montreal Alouettes are not used to losing their opening game. Last 6 have been wins for Montreal. In fact, since '97, the Montreal Alouettes have won their first 3 games every year.
Last year they set a team record, winning 8 straight to begin the season en route to the Grey Cup year. 44 seconds to go. 2nd and 10 Alouettes. Here's Calvillo. Everyone's covered, got it away. Jay Graham made the catch. He stopped in his tracks short of the first down. The ball will be spotted at the 30. Alondra Johnson wrapped him up.
It's the ultimate team game, John, and we talked in the first half and a lot this game about that defensive line for the Calgary Stampeders. Well, you got to give credit to the Calgary secondary on that last play. Forced Calvillo to throw it underneath and put Matt Kellett on the field.
And here is Kellett. He's been an Alouette for about 48 hours. He'll have it spotted at the 38-yard line. This for the tie. Matt Kellett. He's got it.
It is good.
He kicks well as an Alouette. And it's even at 20 with 29 seconds to go.
Matt Kellett, that kick for his confidence is enormous.
Well, and for the confidence the team will have in this kicker. I mean, they're looking to replace Terry Baker, who was around the league forever.
Retired this past year. We talked about the problems that Don Matthews had in camp, and Matt Kellett became available. He put him in a different situation, and he said in the press conference yesterday, he said, you know, sometimes you just need a different environment. You just need a change of scenery, and you can get that confidence back in a hurry. And what Matthews did is he took Matt Kellett in the first practice, which was 2 days ago, and he put the whole team out there, put some pressure on him, and said, okay, here's all your new teammates. Introduce yourself, and let's see you make about 10 in a row, just to see if you can handle it, and he did.
Let's see what Marcus Crandall can do to respond. got a thing on that play. That was Mark Thompson blitzing through. And the Alouettes like to send a bunch.
Well, they'll send one more than you can block. There's Mark Thompson right there, and no one touches him. So Marcus Crandall, forget about going to read one or two. He can't have time to read anything. He doesn't even open the book.
"16 seconds remain. Time for one play for the Stampeders here. It's even at 20. Overtime looms. A shootout for the win. The Stampeders couldn't decide on a play, so they'll whistle it down, and third down is coming up. One Hail Mary, possibly.
Time count. Calgary, number 1. Third down.
Well, you're almost thinking you want to go into overtime and see if you can't win it there. And 4 seconds, you cannot give the ball up on downs for sure, because the time
because
count,
that would, with even a second left on the clock, the Alouettes kicked the game-winning field goal.
Well, that's right, and the time count inside of 3 minutes costs you a down. So it's third down now, and Calgary will have to send on the punting unit. And you know one thing, Montreal will send everybody with 5 seconds left, try and block this punt.
And it's been an adventure tonight for Oman. He had one low snap. He had one almost block going the other way in the opening quarter.
And you see how Montreal is moving around. Calgary blocks man. They're trying to pick him up.
He got it away safely. Here's the return. No. Cahoon had to make the catch. Obi.
Well, why not game 1 of the 2003 CFL season? We give you a little extra.
I'm ready for extra. Extra time coming out. The overtime shootouts. Here are the rules if you want to study them carefully.
Teams play a maximum of 2 mini games.
They'll scrimmage from the 35 and attempt to score.
Team who scores the most points at the end of that set will win the game and get the 2 points. And the rule change this year, there is no point for an overtime loss.
If the game is still tied at the shootout, a point apiece. Over 30,000 will be a little disappointed if the Stampeders don't prevail here tonight. Wendy's CFL Live Thursday from Skydome in Toronto. The Rough Riders are in town. The Argonauts debut Damon Allen. We'll have it for you 7 o'clock Eastern time.
Damon Allen looks like a kid again. Saw him in the preseason versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats running around, threw a touchdown pass. I think he'll have a big year.
Pretty nice little running back he's got there, Michael Jenkins.
So both coaches now discuss strategy, and it's interesting to see what teams decide. It looks like Montreal will have the ball first. Now it's the old-fashioned shootout in the McMahon Corral. And what happens here, Montreal goes in from the 35. Basically, they have to get 10 yards for a first down, just like they would in a normal game. If they score anything, a point, a field goal, or a major, Calgary Stampeders get a crack at it.
They get the right to match.
They get the right to match. If they don't match, Montreal wins. If they match or beat it, they win. If they match, they go again.
So here we go. The overtime shootout. The Alouettes' first possession. A 3-yard run.
This time it's a gain of 4 yards on first down. Second down and 6.
Jay Graham has 4 yards. The Alouettes look at 2nd and 6. Great way to begin a new season of CFL football on TSN.
Little OT.
See, and I like this shootout. I really do. And I think this rule this year is good. No point for an overtime loss. 2nd and 6. Calvillo near side. He'll come up short of the first down as Pryor forces the receiver out of bounds. That's Kwame Cavill.
And it'll force Matt Kellett to make yet another pressure kick in his first game as a Montreal Alouette.
He nailed a 38-yarder to get us to even. So here's Kellett again.
You know, and the pressure here, if because he's going first, is that it's a 36-yard field goal attempt. Very makeable for any kicker. But the pressure is on him in a big way, because if he misses this one, basically Calgary can bring the field goal team out in first down.
There's Kellett. Back to back.
Oh, he's been bang on. Good for him.
He's had a good night. 36-yarder that time. The 38-yarder tied the game. So now it could be up to Mark McLaughlin to match, or when you look at it the other way, it's up to the Stampeders to find the end zone and win this thing outright if Marcus Crandall can connect.
And one thing with the Stampeders, they have to find a way to reach back down in there and get some of that enthusiasm back that they got from the first half. Montreal in this second half has taken the momentum. They have taken all that enthusiasm out of the Calgary Stampeders, and they haven't done a thing in the second half offensively. They have a chance to make amends right now.
The Stampeders had a 17-point lead at halftime and looked like world beaters. The Alouettes have responded, and they are even. Here's Calgary's first crack at it. Crandall looking for the touchdown. Darnell McDonald at the 2-yard line.
What a catch!
What a toss!
Well, you're absolutely right. The throw is perfect to the outside. Watch McDonald, little tiny push off, fades away, and makes the catch right in the corner on the 1-yard line.
Omar Evans was covering. The Stampeders have 3 cracks to get into the end zone from the 2. Don't forget, squandered opportunities for Calgary earlier in this game. They settled for field goals when touchdowns were definitely in the cards.
Who wants it more down here, baby? You got to bow your neck now.
Stampeders with a chance to win. Here's Lawrence Phillips.
Not yet.
Down to the 1. 2 cracks added from there. Well, 1 crack added from there, and then you have to rethink it and kick the field goal, perhaps.
Well, the 1 gives you the choice to give you the quarterback sneak. Remember, anytime you turn around and hand it to the running back, you're giving up 3 or 4 yards, but the idea is that your running back has momentum as he hits the line.
2nd and goal to go. The Stampeders can win it outright here. 2nd and goal to go from the 1. And there is exactly what you were talking about. They gave up at least 4 yards there.
There's something about playing goal line defense, though, John, and it's hard to describe. It's when good football teams, and Montreal certainly has a good football team, get back down there and they've got their hand on that yellow stripe, the goal line, something happens. You get the goosebumps in your back, the hair stands up on your neck, and you take your game to another level.
And remember what these guys did last November. These guys in white. They won a championship.
And how about this? Rather than go for the 3 points, tie this thing, Jim Barker is putting it on the line for the win on 3rd down.
Going for the victory, 3rd down. Goal to go.
Wow.
The ball is spotted at the 2-yard line. They'll talk about this tomorrow if he doesn't make it. Crandall puts it up. Receiver is down. No flags. And the Alouettes come back to win this game. The receiver fell down, and it wasn't a well-executed play at all.
Oh, boy.
The target was on the turf. Albert Connell is in the end zone. Hat off now. The Stampeders have blown the opportunity to win their home opener. They had a 17-point lead at halftime, and a gamble that didn't pay off in the final seconds of this shootout.
Well, and that's the bottom line right there. And unfortunately, here in Calgary, the newspapers and everybody else will be talking about that final decision by Jim Barker on 3rd down. If he kicks a field goal, they do it again.
He's still playing.
They're still playing. He gambles for the win because he's that close to the goal line.
Yeah, but he'd already lost yards there. He's back to the 2-yard line. I can almost understand it from the 1 with the quarterback holding the ball.
The debate will continue. I guarantee you this debate will go on and on until they kick off next week here in Calgary, because You love the aggressiveness. You love to go after it for the win.
I hated the play. I hated the call.
You could still be playing if you kick a field goal.
Home not so sweet to the Stampeders at this stage of things. They played well enough in the first half, but they did not play well in the second, and a costly decision. Oh my. Oh my. A 3-point win for the defending Grey Cup champions, and I got so excited there I didn't see if they shook hands or not. Did you?
I did not.
Well, here it is. Coach Jim Barker said, let's go for it on third down, and they do. He's looking for Don Blair. Blair was knocked down, or at least he thought he was. He wanted a little PI call. He didn't get it, and as a result, Don Matthews, the Montreal Alouettes get a 23-20 win, and they can thank this guy who's talking to us right now. The former BC Lion looks very comfortable in that Montreal Alouettes uniform. Matt Kellett, a great night for you, and you guys pulled it out of the fire, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a good win on the road. You know, we have a long road ahead of us. We got 3 road games, and you know, this is a great game for me to come out and gain the confidence of my teammates and get the confidence back in myself. I've always known that I can play in the league. I just got to get that confidence and block out all the extracurricular activities that go on in the stands, and it turned out tonight.
Matt Kellett, Jock Climby here. Congratulations.
Thanks, Jock.
Well done. Just wondering if you did much in the offseason. I mean, you look like you were confident out there. You were stroking the ball extremely well. Did you do anything different this offseason to prepare for the season with the Alouettes this year?
No, you know, I went into camp with the Lions and had a great camp. I think Wally Bono was, you know, when I talked to him, was feeling the pressure from fans and media types. And, you know, it wasn't a comfortable place for me in BC. And, you know, change is good. And it turned out.
Matt Kellett, Matt Dunnigan here. Congratulations. I want to pass that along to you as well. Looks good on you, especially what happened early last year. You come back and resurrect and redeem yourself basically for your new teammates, going 5 for 5, clutch down the stretch. Let me ask you this. Put yourself in Mark McLaughlin's shoes. Would you have liked to have that opportunity to kick the field goal there on Jim Barker's call and put this into a second overtime situation?
Well, you know, it's only a point difference, really. You know, we gained 2, they gained 1.
That's not the case this year.
Oh, it's not? Well, then I changed my decision.
Hey, Matt, Chris Schultz here. Congratulations. You came through 5 for 5. But let's talk a little bit about this confidence issue, because sometimes you look like you could kick the football 70 yards against the gale-force wind. Other times, you're not so sure about yourself. Is this going to be an ongoing battle, or do you feel you can turn a corner in your personal performance based on your performance tonight?
Well, it was a great way to start, and you know, Don instills a lot of confidence in his players, and he allows you to go out and just play football and not worry about mistakes, and you know, that's a big thing for me. So I just go out and kick the ball, and if I hit the first one, you know, I'm pretty much money for the night. But if I have troubles rebounding, so that's going to be my biggest struggle this year, is the rebound when I do miss.
Very honest. Thank you very much, Matt, and congratulations to you and your teammates. 23-20 is the final. Montreal gets it done on the road. They trailed 20-1 in the third quarter, but they chipped away and got it done. And this guy got it done looking very cool down the stretch.